Chapter 724-340, Big Trouble for the Bolo's Family /2. Leaving the bamboo house behind, he glanced at the direction of Yu Yuanwu's bamboo house and found that it was nearly completed, with Yu Yuanwu busily working inside. Lu Yi did not disturb him and left the peak of Ling Luo, returning to his own cave mansion. In the following time, Lu Yi started to enjoy a period of leisure. With abundant resources at hand and nothing much to do, his days were very stable. He spent his days quietly cultivating, and occasionally spent time studying the military formations of the Star Realm Army. It had to be said, the density of spiritual energy in the Star Core was extremely strong, far surpassing that of the Star Marrow. In just over 100 years, Lu Yi had broken through to the 5th layer of the profound Immortal, a rate of cultivation that wasn't slower than his previous pace in the true Immortal realm. In between cultivation sessions, every 2 or 3 decades, Lu Yi would not miss out on preaching his understanding of the Tao. When the cultivation felt tedious, he would go out for a walk, taking his senior sister and the other 3 to stroll around the current Tiananmen, to appreciate the beauty of mountains and rivers, to taste the delicacies of the mortal world, and to observe the various conditions of life. It had to be said, the Tiananmen under Lu Yi's periodic baptism of the Tao tide every few decades was completely different from what it was before he became an immortal. The concentration of spiritual energy throughout the Tiananmen continent had become extremely dense, and in some areas with particularly rich spiritual energy, immortal energy began to emerge. Given time, even immortal treasures could grow. The creatures of all regions, the newborns, practically all had talents for cultivation, and nearly every human possessed a spirit root everyone could cultivate. As for the demon race in the wilderness, they too had become far more powerful than before. However, since Tiananmen had transformed into an immortal star, and the ascended human immortals and demon immortals had returned to Tiananmen, those holy land of immortal sects had settled down in Qingzhou. Together with the presence of the White Cloud immortal sect, humans, demons, and the Sea clan managed to coexist harmoniously. And without a doubt, Qingzhou was the area of the Tiananmen continent where the immortal spirit Qi was the most dense. According to Yu Hangguang and Yu Yuanwu, Qingzhou's current concentration of spiritual energy could already be considered that of an intermediate-level immortal star. And this was merely the result of Lu Yi's teachings over more than 2,000 years. Such a rate of improvement was nothing short of miraculous. Lu Yi was likewise very pleased with this, feeling that his efforts over the years had yielded some fruit. Yet soon his heart grew heavy again. After all, Tiananmen had a Jihu channel, and it was uncertain how many years later it would be when the Jihu channel could no longer be blocked, and the entire Tiananmen might be devoured by Jihu. Even if he did everything well, turning Tiananmen into a superior or even the strongest immortal star, it would be of no avail. Apart from traveling, Lu Yi during his spare time would also gather with some close friends. Cultivators pursued immortality, but likewise, having Taoist friends to discuss and exchange views was also a very pleasant affair. For Lu Yi, since he had memories of his former life, if he was the only one to achieve immortality, it would inevitably be too lonely. By comparison, the fact that his relatives and friends could achieve immortality alongside him was something Lu Yi found more acceptable. Occasionally, it was also nice to get together with friends. Of course, these were things he did in his free time. Most of the time, Lu Yi was still concentrating on his cultivation. But time passed, and in the blink of an eye, more than 500 years had gone by. Lu Yi's cultivation base had advanced to the 8th layer of profound immortal, only a step away from the 9th layer. Such a speed of cultivation would probably terrify a great number of profound immortals, especially since Lu Yi faced no bottlenecks while cultivating, and with a solid foundation, he absorbed the star core's energy very quickly, so his cultivation speed naturally was not slow at all. He felt quite at peace internally, as for him, such a speed of cultivation was the norm. This day, Lu Yi was having a gathering with Jiang Fan and others at the estate of the heavenly dragon Saint Sun. Apart from Lu Yi, Liu Ningxuang and their 4 friends, and the heavenly dragon Saint Sun, the geniuses of their generation from the White Cloud immortal sect, and all the saint heirs and saintesses from the various immortal sect holy lands who followed Lu Yi, of course, all received special treatment from him, having been given plenty of resources. Now, each of them had already become immortals, and most of them held high positions within their own sects, each possessing a dignified temperament. However, since everyone was an immortal, the traces of time passing had ceased to be obvious on them. They looked no different from their younger selves. The Thunder Sound Saintess, who had become the female saint of the Thunder Sound Holy Land, was sitting next to Lu Yi at the moment, stealing glances at him from time to time with a trace of melancholy in her eyes. Lu Yi himself was getting somewhat embarrassed being looked at like this. Liu Ningxuang and the others by his side pretended as if they hadn't seen anything. Because Donggong Mingyue often debated the Tao with the Thunder Sound Saintess, their relationship was quite good. If it had been before, she would have lost her temper, but now, she just chatted cheerfully with the Thunder Sound Saintess, and their relationship had become quite good. Apart from her, the Saintess of the Heavenly Palace and the Saintesses from the other immortal sect Holy Lands were all giving Lu Yi very strange looks. To this, the male cultivators had long since become accustomed and were not surprised. All of the Saintesses from Lu Yi's generation, not a single one had chosen a Taoist couple, which left their male contemporaries quite speechless. One look at Lu Yi and they're smitten for life. However, the male cultivators had become used to this, and the atmosphere was still lively. Everyone discussed the Tao and drank wine. Lu Yi had also prepared immortal brew and immortal treasures for them. The heavenly dragon Saint Sun sipped the immortal brew, his expression becoming somewhat hazy. The ingredients for this wine were of profound immortal-level heavenly treasures, and the heavenly dragon Saint Sun, being only at the heavenly immortal realm, could become drunk with just a mouthful. He exclaimed, "Brother Lu has it easy indeed. You just need to cultivate every day. Meanwhile, I have to handle the affairs of the heavenly dragon Holy Land, which is such a hassle." Lu Yi chuckled lightly. "As the Holy Master, of course, you must bear the corresponding responsibilities. What, do you have a grievance?" "Ah, it's mainly the business with the commercial planet," the heavenly dragon Saint Sun said with a shake of his head, sighing. The Thunder Sound Saintess also frowned and added, "Yes, even though the commercial planet is yours, Brother Lu, and you have prepared corresponding mall shops for these holy lands, our strength is, after all, not as good as those powerful forces in the Three-Eyed Star region. Those profound immortal level powers and top golden immortal level forces still treat us with indifference." The heavenly dragon Saint Sun gave a wry smile. "If it were not for Brother Lu, those top forces from the Three-Eyed Star region would probably not even deign to give us a glance." Upon hearing the heavenly dragon Saint Sun's complaints, Lu Yi had a moment of revelation. In this universe, it all came down to power being revered. With Lu Yi's connections, the top forces of the Three-Eyed Star region remained disciplined on this commercial planet and didn't cause trouble for the powers of Tianming, but ultimately, the power between the two sides was imbalanced. To expect the top forces from the Three-Eyed Star region to truly respect the forces from Tianming would likely be very difficult. Lu Yi could somewhat understand this. Those top forces from the Three-Eyed Star region respected him, Lu Yi, as an individual, not all beings from Tianming Star. He chuckled and said, "Then just concentrate on cultivating. Once you've grown stronger, they will naturally fawn over you." The heavenly dragon Saint Sun rolled his eyes and said, "Although you've provided us with so many resources, Brother Lu, it's still going to take who knows how long for me to reach the golden immortal realm." The Thunder Sound Saintess laughed softly. "Brother Aotian should be content. Every time we get the chance to listen to Brother Lu discuss the Tao up close, an opportunity others don't have. Coupled with the immortal treasures Brother Lu has prepared for us, we all now possess immortal bodies. With such favorable conditions, it would be an absolute waste if we can't break through to the golden immortal realm within 10,000 years." The heavenly dragon Saint Sun responded with a smile. "Thunder Sound Immortal is right. I really shouldn't be so disheartened." Lu Yi smiled and then looked around, frowning. "By the way, where is Nuke?" Nuke, as a passionate follower of Lu Yi from the Three-Eyed Star region and a genius among them, was usually present at every gathering, but it was surprising that he wasn't here this time. Hearing this, the heavenly dragon Saint Sun and the Thunder Sound Saintess paused. After exchanging glances, the heavenly dragon Saint Sun cleared his throat and said, "Brother Lu, Nuke didn't want us to tell you about this." Lu Yi frowned. "What is it?" The Thunder Sound Saintess softly spoke. "It said that Nuke's family has encountered some serious trouble. One of their 3 elders at the Golden Immortal Peak has gone missing." Chapter 725-341, Gathering the Fate Line. Chapter 725-341, Gathering the Fate Line. Upon hearing this, Lu Yu was taken aback as well. He still remembered the last time he heard from Nuke about the Bolo's family, mentioning an elder had gone missing and they were searching for him. Originally, Lu Yu hadn't paid much attention to it. After all, it was just a lack of contact. If someone went out and it was too far, it was naturally inconvenient to communicate. But now it seemed that the situation had taken a turn for the worse. The third elder, isn't that one of the top figures of the Bolo's clan? Although Lu Yu didn't know much about the Bolo's clan, he still knew a little. Yes, the third elder is at the peak of the golden immortal rank, having reached the extreme. He's just half a step away from breaking through to the immortal monarch realm. The heavenly dragon Saint Sun nodded and said. Lu Yu frowned. If they indeed possess such strength, then they should be comparable to the humanoid Jiu demons he had encountered at the Ningyan battlefield. Such strength should be among the top tier in the three-eyed star region, so how could they disappear without a trace? Did the Bolo's clan run into some troublesome adversary? Lu Yu wondered. The heavenly dragon Saint Sun, and those like the Tei Saint Sun next to him looked at each other and eventually shook their heads. Feng Bumming spoke up. As for the specifics, we're not too clear ourselves. Nuke brother hasn't discussed the details with us. Lu Yu nodded slightly and said, if you encounter Nuke and he needs help, he can come to me. Nuke had been wholeheartedly good to him, so Lu Yu naturally wouldn't be stingy with offering help if it was within his power. The heavenly dragon Saint Sun and the others all nodded in agreement. Amidst the clinking of cups and toasting, time passed, and the gathering lasted for half a month before it approached its end. Alas, Brother Lu is the lucky one with leisure time on his hands, while we are about to get busy again. The heavenly dragon Saint Sun shook his head, complaining once more. Everyone laughed heartily, and eventually they said their farewells and left. Lu Yi and Liu Ningxuang's group also returned to the White Cloud Immortal sect. Jiang Fan and others who had been with them had already gone to the commercial planet via the transmission array, with them taking charge of the Immortal sect's affairs there. 30 years later, Lu Yi successfully made a breakthrough to the 9th layer of the profound immortal realm, merely one step away from the golden immortal rank. On this day, while he was deducing the military formations of the Star Realm army, Lu Yi suddenly raised his eyebrows and looked towards the outside of his cave mansion. At this moment, on the mountain path of Ling Luo Peak, Jiang Fan was leading Nuke towards Lu Yi's cave mansion. At this time, Nuke's expression was somewhat anxious, and he looked quite troubled. Seeing Nuke's state, Jiang Fan comforted him. Brother Nuke, don't worry. Junior brother Lu possesses astonishing strength and is extraordinary. As long as junior brother Lu is willing to help, your clan's elder will surely be found. Forcing a smile, Nuke nodded and said, yes, I believe in young Master Lu. It's just that these years of troubles with the Bolo's clan have been really exhausting. Jiang Fan was silent as he also had some understanding of the situation. Nearly a third of the golden immortal cultivators from the Bolo's clan had disappeared. Such a loss of high-level combatants was a huge blow to the whole clan. Soon the two arrived outside Lu Yi's cave mansion and saw Lu Yi playing with Little Star. Seeing Lu Yi right at the entrance, Jiang Fan and Nuke were both taken aback. Lu Yi chuckled, Brother Jiang Fan, Brother Nuke, you were looking for me for something. Coming back to his senses, Nuke hurriedly said, young Master Lu, I'd like to ask for your help with a matter concerning our Bolo's clan. Having anticipated this, Lu Yi nodded and asked, what exactly is the situation? Having organized his words on the way here, Nuke quickly said, it started 700 or 800 years ago when an elder of our Bolo's clan went missing. We couldn't make contact using our clan's secret technique. Initially, we didn't pay much attention, considering there are many secluded realms and peculiar regions in the universe where communication issues have occurred before. But before long, several more elders disappeared. That was when our Bolo's clan started taking the matter seriously and began searching for the missing elders. Despite almost searching the entire Three-Eyed Star region, we couldn't find any of them. Over the years, even more cultivators have gone missing, not just elders but also those within the clan who were at the profound immortal realm. 50 years ago, one of the 3 searching elders also became unreachable. Hearing this, Lu Yi nodded slightly and said, so you're hoping that I will help your Bolo's clan find the missing people? Nuke nodded, we've exhausted all means and still can't find them. We can only trouble young Master Lu for help. I believe you must have a way. Lu Yi thought it over and concluded that this matter was indeed not a difficult task for him. Finding people, as long as they once existed, is something he could do. After all, he had cultivated the Yu family's secret fate technique. Anyone who has ever existed would inevitably leave behind their own fate line in the fabric of time and space. By following the fate line, one should be able to find anyone. Lu Yi smiled and said, "No problem, I'll help you look." Seeing Lu Yi agree, Nuke immediately showed a look of surprise and joy. "Thank you, young Master Lu." In Nuke's heart, Lu Yi was incomprehensibly powerful, even capable of freely manipulating the Tao tide. Perhaps he truly had a way to find the missing people, and even if Lu Yi couldn't locate them with the Yu family behind him, there was always a greater hope. Lu Yi nodded. "Take me to your clan's territory." "Of course," Nuke said eagerly. Chapter 726, 341, Tying Up the Fate Line 2. Chapter 726-341, Tying Up the Fate Line /2. Lu Yi thought it over and didn't notify Liu Ningxuang and the others this time. After all, they had been in seclusion these days, preparing for their breakthrough into the profound immortal realm. As for him, even without the secret technique of the Yin-Yang Tao seal, the amplification from his own heavenly heart technique was equally powerful. His current cultivation base had grown much stronger than when he had first visited the Ningyan battlefield, and even without the Yin-Yang Tao seal, he could easily exert the same strength as before. Zhang Fan said with a smile, "I won't accompany you and slow you down. If even golden immortal level experts have gone missing, a minor heavenly immortal like me going there would only cause trouble for junior brother Lu. I'll head back to the commercial planet." Zhang Fan said goodbye to Lu Yi and Nuke, while Lu Yi and Nuke boarded the Red Sun boat and left Ling Luo Peak. After passing through the Star Gate and shuttling through space several times, it only took them a few days to reach the Bolo's clan's homestar. Lu Yi, sensing the rich immortal spirit Qi of the Bolo's clan's main star, felt somewhat emotional. It's worthy of being an immortal star that births a large number of golden immortals. This immortal spirit Qi is much denser than that of Tianming. Hearing this, Nuke said with a strained smile, "With young Master Lu's methods, frequently invoking the Tao to nourish Tianming's star, it won't be many years before Tianming completely surpasses our Bolo's star." Lu Yi gave a slight smile. "I hope so." Just then, Lu Yi sensed many presences rapidly approaching, among them many at the golden immortal level. Lu Yi raised his eyebrows and looked over, finding many people flying towards the Red Sun boat, all of them cultivators of the Three-Eyed Clan. Nuke said with a smile, "Young Master Lu, I had notified my clan earlier, and the family elders are coming with the elders to greet you." Lu Yi nodded slightly and said, "Your Bolo's clan has quite a number of golden immortals." He had sensed nearly 30 already, and that likely wasn't all of them. Nuke said bitterly, "The loss of our golden immortal family elders has been huge over these years. We hope young Master Lu can help us find them." Lu Yi nodded. Lu Yi and Nuke disembarked from the Red Sun boat and saw a group of elderly members of the Three-Eyed Clan, leading a number of middle-aged and young cultivators greeting them. The two elders leading the group had incredibly terrifying auras, both at the peak of the golden immortal, only a step away from reaching the immortal monarch level. Although it was only a step away, truly achieving a breakthrough to the immortal monarch level was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. Too many golden immortals had perished at this step. The two deeply wrinkled elders of the Three-Eyed Clan greeted with a bow. "The Bolo's clan greets young Master Lu." Lu Yi gave a slight smile. "Nuke and I are friends. There's no need to be so formal, everyone." Hearing this, the family elders of the Three-Eyed Clan lit up, casting a glance at Nuke beside them and inwardly praising. They hadn't expected that Nuke had developed such a good relationship with young Master Lu. With such a background, even if they had lost many family elders, they no longer needed to worry about the Bolo's clan's stability. In the entire sky-falling star domain, no force dared to disrespect the Yu family, not even those at the immortal monarch level, let alone within the Three-Eyed Clan, which didn't have such high-level powers. The family elders, thinking of this, all breathed a sigh of relief. One of the leading elders spoke. "Young Master Lu, my name is Sabin, one of the family elders of the Bolo's clan. Here, I represent our clan to express our deepest gratitude for young Master Lu's willingness to help our Bolo's clan." "Sabin, you are too courteous," Lu Yi replied with a light laugh. "Since I am here, let us begin now." Hearing Lu Yi's words, everyone was taken aback. "Doesn't young Master Lu need to rest first?" Sabin asked. Lu Yi shook his head. "No, let's start right away. who here has items that were used for a while by those who have gone missing. When a person uses an item, that item becomes imbued with that person's destiny, a relationship known as causality. Seeing Lu Yi's insistence, the elders naturally held back their further questions. Rather, they too hoped to find the missing family elders as soon as possible. Sabin thought for a moment and then said, "Young Master Lu, please come with us back to our clan. We have such items stored there." Lu Yi nodded. The group then returned to the Bolos clan. Soon, they arrived in front of the temple of the Bolos clan. The temple, which was generally only open to significant members of the Bolos clan, was naturally also accessible to Lu Yi. Upon entering the temple, Sabin said, "Young Master Lu, please wait a moment, I'll go get it." Lu Yi nodded, and Sabin vanished from his spot. Before long, he returned with a dark blue cushion. The cushion emitted a dense immortal spirit qi, and even released a hint of coolness. Lu Yi was somewhat surprised. This was a decent high-grade immortal device. If one cultivated on this, it would likely calm the mind and prevent the birth of heart demons, and probably would also speed up the cultivation rate. As an experienced artifact refiner, Lu Yi could discern the characteristics of this immortal device at just a glance. Of course, to him, this immortal device was merely decent. Given the materials, he could even refine top-grade immortal devices. It was only that refining acquired spirit treasures was overly cumbersome, as they required the infusion of Tao origin energy, or else he would already be refining acquired spirit treasures. "This is the cushion used by one of my brothers for cultivation. Young Master Lu, will this suffice?" Sabin asked hopefully. Lu Yi's eyes flickered with streaming light, and the world in his eyes turned extraordinary. He began to use the fate technique. In Lu Yi's vision, strands of fate lines intertwined. To commoners' eyes, these would likely appear merged into one mass, indistinguishable. But for Lu Yi, who was at the profound immortal realm, his spiritual power was powerful enough, and he also mastered sufficiently strong destiny law, so he could easily distinguish the differences between the fate lines. He could clearly see that one person had the most fate lines remaining on the cushion. Apart from that, there were 3 other fate lines, but they were minimal. Among these 3 fate lines, 2 pointed towards people by his side, one being Sabin and the other, another golden immortal peak elder. This cushion was likely left by one of the missing elders. Lu Yi suddenly understood, watching the most abundant fate line drift off into the distance and merge into the void, unknown how far it traveled. Lu Yi narrowed his eyes and declared, "This will do." He reached out to grab, and the Tao was manipulated by Lu Yi. The scattered fate lines under the fluctuation of the power of Tao slowly converged, becoming clear. This was a technique Lu Yi had discerned. Although Lu Yi still couldn't alter the fate lines, by leveraging the power of Tao, he could slightly influence them. This change had no effect on the cultivator himself, but for Lu Yi, who observed destinies, it was quite convenient. He could clearly trace the fate trajectory of this cultivator. To others, they only saw Lu Yi slightly grasping at the space. As cultivators of the golden immortal level, they detected a slight ripple of Taoist energy. This led to immense fear inside Sabin and the other elders. Power of Tao. They watched Lu Yi in disbelief. Young Master Lu was already capable of using the power of Tao. How was that possible? Only those cultivators who had perceived the Tao origin could wield the power of Tao, and such cultivators, even if not at the immortal king realm, must possess a profound insight into the Tao origin. Yet young Master Lu, clearly at the profound immortal realm, was already capable of using the power of Tao. This truly startled all the elders of the Bolos clan. They had long heard from Nuke about how exceptional Lu Yi's talents were, and had gathered some understanding through the cultivators who had visited Tiananmen. Before they met Lu Yi, they had estimated as highly as they could his strengths. Nevertheless, they had still underestimated him. A profound immortal capable of using the power of Tao, who would believe that? Saying it out loud might even make one seem foolish. They watched Lu Yi's movements, holding their breath. Even though, like Sabin, a golden immortal peak expert could not understand what Lu Yi was doing, using something that involved the energy of Tao was evidently no simple matter. They suddenly had hope. Chapter 727, 342, The Direction of the Fate Line, Abyss Ruins. Chapter 727-342, The Direction of the Fate Line, Abyss Ruins. Lu Yi looked at the increasingly prominent fate line and said, Let's go. The many clan elders who were eagerly watching Lu Yi were startled, and Sabin exclaimed, "Young Master Lu, do you have a clue now?" Lu Yi glanced at the fate line and smiled slightly. "Yes, I've found a clue." "That's great." Sabin and the other elders immediately breathed a sigh of relief. Sabin soon calmed down, and had another one of the trio of elders stay with some of the clan elders within the Bolo's clan to prevent any accidents. Then he himself, along with Nuke and other clan elders, followed Lu Yi onto the Red Sun boat. Lu Yi controlled the Red Sun boat, moving in the direction of the fate line. Mastering both the space law and destiny law, Lu Yi could still see the fate line in the void while navigating through space, ensuring they didn't lose their target because of space traversal. As the Red Sun boat traveled through the Star River, and because there was no star gate in the direction indicated by the fate line, they had to move using a space traversal array. Time passed, and in the blink of an eye, more than a month had gone by. As the Red Sun boat moved, both Lu Yi and Sabin, among others, were somewhat astonished. Nuke, with a bewildered face, said, Are we almost leaving the Three-Eyed Star region? How could the clan elders have gone this far?" Sabin was also perplexed and astonished. "Young Master Lu, could we have gone the wrong way?" Lu Yi furrowed his brows as he looked at the still prominent fate line and shook his head. "No mistake, this is the right direction. As for why they would go this way, I don't know." Hearing this, the many clan elders looked at each other. But Lu Yi's identity, along with his previous ability to activate Taoist energy, was enough to make all the clan elders, including Sabin, choose to believe Lu Yi. The Red Sun boat traveled extremely fast through the void, soon completely leaving the Three-Eyed Star region and wandering in the endless star sea. After a while, the Red Sun boat moved further and further away from the Three-Eyed Star region. This left Lu Yi and others somewhat unable to understand. The Bolo's clan's elders, even if they had ventured out of the Three-Eyed Star region before, wouldn't collectively leave, and certainly not to such a great distance, would they? What are they planning to do coming all this way? Everyone looked at each other. However, no one could provide an answer. Afterwards, their expressions grew more and more grim, because the direction they were heading was even beginning to leave the sky-falling star domain. Lu Yi had a deep frown, discovering that things seemed to be going beyond his expectations. Initially, he thought it was just helping the Bolo's clan find people, nothing difficult. But who would have thought that the Bolo's clan's elders were such runners, almost running out of the sky-falling star domain? This dam, where exactly do they want to go? That direction should be the Crystal Spirit Star domain, right? How did they go there? Sabin and other Bolo's clan elders were equally baffled. Even though they were all members of the Bolo's clan, having lived together for tens of millions of years, they could not understand why the elders would go to such a place. Lu Yi frowned and said, "Elder Sabin, did your missing clan elders show any signs of irregularity before, or have they met someone?" Although the relationship between the Crystal Spirit Star domain and the Sky-Falling Star domain was not terrible, it wasn't very good either. Similar to the Rashomon Star domain, friction always existed at the border. He started to suspect whether the Bolo's clan's elders had communicated with the Star Spirit Star domain. Sabin and the others were also baffled and then shook their heads. "Impossible. We usually practice in seclusion on Ancestor Star. If they had met anyone, we would know. Before leaving Ancestor Star, they had not met other people." Lu Yi nodded slightly, thinking that made sense. The Bolo's clan was top tier only within the Three-Eyed Star region, but quite average outside it. However, that made Lu Yi even more puzzled. If the Bolo's clan's elders had no other business, what were they doing here? Just then, Lu Yi looked through the window ahead and showed a look of astonishment. In the vast universe, in an area extremely far from the Red Sun boat, the brilliant star sea seemed to be torn apart by some force, revealing a fierce black crack. This crack appeared like an abyss laid across the starry sky, covering a vast area. This is the Abyss Ruins, a cosmic forbidden land. I never imagined we would end up here." Sabin, looking at the crack resembling an abyss in the distance, realized something and his complexion changed. Hearing this, Lu Yi was somewhat startled. This is the Abyss Ruins. He had heard about the Abyss Ruins before. After all, the destiny skill he was using had been brought from the Abyss Ruins by an ancestor of the Yu family. This was a cosmic forbidden zone, so labeled because the region inside was extremely dangerous, generally a one-way trip. And the Bolo's clan's elders, mere golden immortal realm, had ventured into such a place. It's worth noting that an ancestor from the Yu family was of the immortal venerable realm. Even so, entering it almost cost him his return. Could the Bolos clan's elders be going senile? Lu Yi was completely baffled. Not just Lu Yi, Sabin and the others felt the same. Everyone looked at each other, and the atmosphere became somewhat quiet for a time. This isn't right, based on my understanding of Saki and the others. They absolutely wouldn't come here, Sabin said. Chapter 728, 342, The Direction of the Fate Line, Abyss Ruins 2. Chapter 728, Chapter 342, The Direction of the Fate Line, Abyss Ruins /2. Yes, how could they possibly come to a place like the Cosmic Forbidden Zone? Young Master Lu, could we be on the wrong path? The elders of the Bolos clan spoke one after another. Even though they trusted Lu Yi, they absolutely couldn't believe that the golden immortal realm elders of the Bolos clan would actually come to such a place as the Cosmic Forbidden Zone. Even Lu Yi himself frowned, somewhat puzzled. Theoretically, he had cultivated his fate skill to the extreme level, and he had also achieved perfection in the destiny law. Under such circumstances, the fate lines he saw were not supposed to have any issues. However, the fact that the elders of the Bolos clan had traveled tens of thousands of light years to the Cosmic Forbidden Zone, even he found absurd. It couldn't possibly be that they thought they had lived long enough and wanted to die, could it? Lu Yi looked around. The fate line was still conspicuous, heading in the direction of what seemed to be an abyssal rift. The fate line led to the abyss ruins. His eyes flickered with speculation. Could it be because the fate skill was brought out by an ancestor of the Yu family from the abyss ruins, and there was something in the abyss ruins that attracted fate lines, that the fate line was drifting in this direction? Was it actually the case that the destiny of the Bolos clan elders was not in this direction? Lu Yi pondered, thinking that this possibility did indeed exist. However, he still could not accept this possibility. After all, the limit realm was too powerful, having completely transcended the immortal technique itself and ascended to the level of the Tao, coupled with the perfect law. Could all these be affected? Lu Yi thought for a moment, then slowly spoke. Let's continue in this direction a bit longer and see what happens. Sabin and the other elders of the Bolos clan looked at each other, somewhat hesitant. After all, that was the Cosmic Forbidden Zone. Everyone knew that it was an extremely dangerous area. Perhaps just approaching it could lead to death. Now, the Bolos clan had already lost a third of its elders, and if they too perished here, then the Bolos clan would soon be finished, and they would be removed from the list of top forces in the Three-Eyed Star region. Although these words were said by Lu Yi, they couldn't help but worry. Just then Nuke spoke up. I agree, I believe young Master Lu would not joke with everyone's lives. Seeing Nuke's firm support, Sabin thought about the Taoist energy that Lu Yi had previously stirred and also firmed up his resolve, speaking, since young Master Lu says so, let's continue and take a look. The elders looked at each other, and then nodded their heads one after another. Good. Then let's follow young Master Lu's lead. Seeing everyone agreeing, Lu Yi smiled and then steered the Red Sun boat toward the direction of the abyss ruins. Lu Yi looked at the abyssal rift, his expression somewhat solemn. Even he, who was highly cautious of the infamous Cosmic Forbidden Zone. Even immortal venerable level great experts who entered it couldn't come out, and he didn't believe that he could definitely make it out. However, he would not enter the rift that appeared very dangerous, nor would he even get very close. He'd only observe the situation from a distant place. If a deeper exploration was needed, then he would have to leave first, wait until his strength was stronger, reaching the immortal venerable or even the immortal king level, before coming back. He wasn't so foolish to blatantly confront danger. There was no need for that. Safely cultivating and waiting until his strength was sufficiently strong, these so-called forbidden zones wouldn't be any different from other places for him. Strength is the true authority. But now, even though he wouldn't enter the abyss forbidden zone, and was only observing the situation from afar, he still had to remain highly vigilant to prevent any unexpected incidents. As the Red Sun boat kept approaching, the fate line continued to drift. Just then Lu Yi's pupils suddenly constricted, revealing a shocked expression. At this moment, his heart was like stormy seas. He sensed the Qi of Jiu in the direction of the fate line. Because he had frequently visited the Jiu battlefield to clear instances over the years, even encountering humanoid Jiu demons that might be considered powerhouses in Jiu, he was extremely sensitive to the qi of Jade. On top of this being the Tao world, his understanding and spirit towards the Tao were unparalleled. Facing the Jiu Qi was almost like encountering a layer of pollution upon the Tao itself. Even though the Qi was exceedingly well hidden, Lu Yi detected it almost immediately. He was greatly alarmed, having never heard of Jiu demons existing in the area of the Abyss ruins. But now he distinctly felt the presence of Jiu Qi. What was this situation? Jiu demons in the Abyss ruins. Or could it be that these Jiu demons had traveled from another region to this place? If that were true, wouldn't that mean the Jiu demons could traverse the Jiu channel, cross the Jiu battlefield, and enter the universe? Just thinking about this possibility made Lu Yi's skin crawl. Even though his current strength was formidable, having fought in the Jiu battlefield several times, he was equally aware of the terrifying strength of the Jiu demons. Cultivators of the same level were likely no match for the Jiu demons, and besides, the Jiu demons didn't truly die in the Jiu battlefield, which meant that their deaths in this universe might not be true deaths either. They would likely face an indestructible and terrifying force. If this force had already infiltrated, that would be truly horrifying. Of course, it could also be traces left by cultivators who had been eroded by Jiu Qi. And to leave such profound traces of Jiu, it likely wasn't just one or two eroded cultivators. Noticing the dramatic change in expression on Lu Yi, Nuke, who had been paying close attention, quickly asked in surprise, "Young Master Lu, what's wrong?" Lu Yi came back to his senses, hesitated for a moment, and chose not to disclose the situation with the Jiu demons. He said, "There might be some danger ahead, be cautious." Upon hearing Lu Yi's words, Sabin and the others were taken aback. Their divine sense swept the area and felt no threat whatsoever. However, since Lu Yi had warned them, they naturally became solemn. In fact, because they were planning to approach the Abyss ruins, they were already very tense and alert. Lu Yi took a deep breath and steered the Red Sun boat towards the direction from which the Jiu Qi emanated. Before long, Lu Yi and his companions saw a heavenly boat traveling between the distant star seas, heading towards the direction of the Abyss ruins. And the Jiu demons, Qi that Lu Yi had felt earlier was emanating from this heavenly boat. Furthermore, Lu Yi discovered that the fate line of the Bolos clan's elders also ended within that heavenly boat. Clearly, the Bolos clan's elders were likely inside the heavenly boat. Not only did Lu Yi notice the heavenly boat, but Sabin and the others noticed it as well. They all wore solemn expressions. Since this area was nearing the cosmic forbidden zone, any craft capable of operating here and seeming to head closer to the Abyss ruins was no ordinary existence. They could not help but be tense and serious. Lu Yi narrowed his eyes and said, "The people you are looking for might be inside there." Hearing this, Sabin and the others were stunned, giving Lu Yi a surprised look and then turning their gaze towards the heavenly boat. The heavenly boat was pitch black, styled like an ancient battlefield with a palace made of metal on top, clearly not a craft from the Three-Eyed Star region. How could the missing Bolos clan's elders be inside it? However, since Lu Yi had spoken thus, they naturally became even more vigilant. "Let's go together. There might be extraordinary beings inside. Everyone stay alert." Upon hearing this, everyone nodded, showing their agreement. With a thought, Lu Yi used the sky tunneling technique, leading everyone into the void. At that moment, Lu Yi found that the space here was different from other regions. It seemed covered by a peculiar force, enveloping the surrounding space with a thin membrane-like layer, obstructing others from traversing through space. However, for Lu Yi, this was not a big problem. The perfection of the space law and the extreme sky tunneling technique allowed him to maneuver with ease, even in such conditions. Chapter 729, 343, Evil Demon Immortal Monarch. Chapter 729, Chapter 343, Evil Demon Immortal Monarch. Space fluctuated slightly, and Lu Yi, along with Nuke and others, appeared in the vacuum, right beside the colossal heavenly boat. Sabin snorted coldly, reached out to grab the air, and the immortal spirit Qi turned into a lump of earthy yellow vortex, enveloping the heavenly boat within it. Instantly, the heavenly boat was immobilized, as if it had become deeply trapped in quicksand. "Saki, are all of you inside? Come out quickly." Sabin and the other clan elders of the Bolos clan watched the distant heavenly boat with anticipation in their eyes. Just then, a terrifying and sinister fog of black mist erupted from within the heavenly boat, corroding the quicksand like poison water. The quicksand was almost instantly devoured, and the heavenly boat regained its freedom. Seeing this black mist, Sabin and the others contracted their pupils, showing an incredibly shocked expression. Jiu-Chi. How is this possible? There's actually Jiu-Chi here. The multitude of clan elders cried out in alarm, their bodies tense, vigilantly watching the distant heavenly boat. As immortals, these clan elders had naturally visited the Jiu battlefield many times over the long years, and they were well aware of how terrifying the Jiu demons were, and how troublesome Jiu-Chi could be. If the Jiu demons escaped from the Jiu battlefield and came to the cosmos, it would undoubtedly be a cosmic disaster. However, the Yu family's defenses against the Jiu battlefield were extremely robust, with hardly any Jiu demons able to cross the line. But now they were seeing Jiu-Chi here. All the clan elders of the Bolo's clan felt a chill run down their spines. Lu Yi's heart, however, remained calm, as he had already had some awareness of this before. The heavenly boat that had broken free from control did not flee, but simply remained still in the same spot, leaving the atmosphere dead and silent. Then, under the surge of Jiu-Chi, a series of terrifying presences quickly emerged. All of them were cultivators of the Three-Eyed Clan, including both older and younger members, with the strongest having reached the peak of Golden Immortal, while the weakest were merely of the Heavenly Immortal level. Seeing these people, Sabin and the others' pupils contracted, and their faces displayed an angry and terrified look. These were all familiar faces, those Golden Immortals. Each one turned out to be a clan elder of the Bolo's clan. At this moment, these cultivators' bodies were surging with Jiu-Chi, clearly corrupted by the Jiu-Chi, no longer their original selves. This meant that 1/3 of the Bolo's clan's power had died. Originally, they had held on to hope, thinking that the clan elders might have only been trapped by something, but now, that hope had turned into despair. The elder standing at the forefront of the crowd, whose cultivation base was not weaker than Sabin's and was merely a step away from becoming an immortal monarch, was one of the 3 elders of the Bolo's clan, named Saki. At this moment, whether it was Saki or the others, all were enveloped by black mist, their expressions cold and their eyes filled with evil. He looked at Sabin with a smile that was not a smile. "Sabin, you've managed to find us. Catch up with us, or are you planning to join us?" Even though affected by Jiu-Chi, he still had his consciousness. It's just that his consciousness was no longer his own, being influenced by Jiu-Chi. He had thoroughly transformed into a demon. "Saki, you, all of you, how could you be eroded by Jiu?" Sabin's somewhat hoarse voice rang out, staring fixedly at Saki. Eroded? Saki's expression became even more sinister, and his body emanated an extremely dense Jiu-Chi. "We've merely been absorbed by Jiu. Come, join us." His voice carried layer upon layer of hissing and noise, as if countless people were whispering, sending chills down one's spine. Sabin's face gradually became colder. Just at this moment, Saki and the other eroded cultivators were surrounded by surging Jiu-Chi, closing in on Lu Yi and the others. A large number of golden immortals, together with various other levels of immortals, unleashed their full strength, causing fluctuations in power that made an entire starry sky fall into darkness. Jiu-Chi wavered, gradually spreading in all directions, trapping the entire space within. Sabin and the others' complexions changed, their expressions becoming tense. All these were Jiu mutated cultivators, whose strength had surely risen a lot compared to before, and such power was not something they could confront. Sabin's heart filled with regret. "Young Master Lu, I didn't expect it to turn out like this. It's our fault that we've doomed you." Hearing this, Lu Yi smiled calmly and said, "Don't worry, they are nothing. The real master hasn't appeared yet." Hearing this, Sabin and the others were stunned, their expressions somewhat bewildered. "These people, they are not the real master." Sabin knew Saki's strength, which was originally on par with his own, but now that he could use Jiu-Chi, his combat power was definitely far above Sabin. Even facing an immortal monarch-level cultivator, with the evil of the Jiu-Chi, he would probably be able to resist a bit, right? Such tremendous strength, and yet they were not the real master. Afterwards, Sabin thought of something. The original bodies that eroded them were indeed still not present. This sent a cold shiver down Sabin's spine. However, at that moment, Lu Yi's eyes flickered with light, and all the Jiu-Chi seemed to melt away and disappeared without trace. Everyone was stunned, including Saki and others affected by the Jiu-Chi, who now had stiff expressions on their faces, looking at Lu Yi in astonishment. How could this be possible? Saki and the others only sensed a surge of tremendously powerful power of laws that devoured all the Jiu Qi. Chapter 730, 343, Immortal Monarch Evil Demon 2. Chapter 730, Chapter 343, Immortal Monarch Evil Demon /2. A mere profound immortal, how could he possess such terrifying power of laws? Just at that moment, Saki and the rest felt as if space itself had congealed. Their bodies were locked in place, incapable of moving in the slightest. This shocked Saki and the others even more, and they even felt a trace of fear. Space law, such powerful space law. Who are you? Saki couldn't believe what he was looking at, staring at Lu Yi. The Bolos clan doesn't have such a powerful individual. At this point, Sabin and the rest had also snapped back to reality. They looked at Lu Yi, somewhat dazed. They had not expected that Lu Yi, without moving an inch, could immobilize all the cultivators who were corrupted by the Jiu Qi, including Saki. What kind of strength was this? Sabin didn't dare to even contemplate it. Lu Yi chuckled lightly. I am not a member of the Bolos clan. As he spoke, Lu Yi looked over at the heavenly boat behind them, his eyes narrowing as a hint of amusement appeared in his gaze. However, the corruption you've suffered from the Jiu Qi doesn't seem too deep. It can be cleansed. While speaking, strands of Taoist energy circulated around Lu Yi. He manipulated the Tao, infusing Taoist energy into Saki and the others' bodies. The next moment, they let out bone-chilling screams, and strands of pitch-black and sinister mist started to dissipate from their insides. That was the Jiu Qi that had deeply penetrated their bodies. If it had been in an environment like the Jiu battlefield where Jiu Qi was prevalent, even Lu Yi would have struggled to expel the Jiu Qi from these cultivators using Taoist energy. But this place had little Jiu Qi to sustain it, and under the infusion of the power of Tao, the Qi inside them was soon forced out, bit by bit. Yet the process was excruciating. If it wasn't for Lu Yi using the space law to confine them, even if they were immortals, they would probably be writhing on the ground, though there was no ground to speak of in this starry space. As they saw the Jiu Qi being expelled strand by strand from Saki and the others, Sabin and the rest's eyes nearly bulged out of their sockets. What is this? Jiu Qi can actually be cleansed like this. Sabin and the others had, after all, spent time in the Jiu battlefield and knew how difficult Jiu Qi was to deal with. Every time they ventured into the Jiu battlefield, if they were not careful and got corrupted by Jiu Qi, there was basically no hope for them. Sabin and others had heard legends that immortal venerable level powerhouses could cleanse Jiu Qi if they paid a certain price, but that was an immortal venerable. But Lu Yi was only a profound immortal, yet he could also achieve this feat. And he seemed to be doing it effortlessly. How is this possible? Sabin and the others had their minds filled with question marks, followed by expressions of immense surprise. Being able to remove Jiu Qi meant there was hope for them yet. Just then, a sinister and terrifying presence emerged from the heavenly boat behind them, shaking the space around them. The previously immobilized Saki and the others suddenly broke free from control. They retreated frantically, faces filled with horror as they looked at the calmly composed Lu Yi in the distance. At this moment, Lu Yi, with a troubled expression and feeling somewhat awkward, thought to himself, "This presence, damn it, it's an immortal monarch, right? Could my luck be this bad?" Although he sensed that a very powerful Jiu Qi was lurking, he never imagined that it would be at the level of an immortal monarch. His expression grew more solemn as he stared in the direction of the heavenly boat. "Get ready, if anything seems wrong, I'll take you all and leave." Upon hearing this, the expressions on the faces of the initially joyful Sabin and the others stiffened. They too had detected that overwhelmingly terrifying presence, every inch of their bodies involuntarily tensing up, with the weakest nuke trembling. Even Sabin, at the peak of the golden immortal realm, felt an insurmountable sense of powerlessness. Now, hearing Lu Yi's words, they instantly realized that the true master here was an existence that even young Master Lu was wary of. An individual at the level of an immortal monarch. They originally thought they could rescue the elders of the Bolos clan, but they never expected there to be such an individual. The hearts of Sabin and the others plummeted from heaven to hell. Just then a sinister and icy whisper arose, "The breath of Tao. A mere profound immortal mastering such power of Tao, you are quite extraordinary." This whisper came with crazed howls and screams, as if someone was shrieking in the abyss. Nuke's eyes were bloodshot, seemingly on the verge of falling into demonhood. Lu Yi felt the increasingly powerful presence, sensing the greed in the voice's owner. His mouth twitched slightly, and he immediately used the heavenly heart technique. The next moment, Lu Yi's aura surged, breaking through the golden immortal realm. Thereafter, Lu Yi unleashed his full power, the immortal spirit Qi enveloping everyone inside, forcefully breaking through the space sealed by that unknown existence, leading the cultivators of the Bolo's clan away from there. The voice's owner expressed a hint of astonishment. In the next instant, a figure shrouded in black mist appeared at the position where Lu Yi and the others had just been. Gazing at the slowly stabilizing spatial fluctuations, the owner of the black mist fell silent. He hadn't expected that, despite personally taking action, he would still let a mere profound immortal escape. Such formidable space law, such powerful spatial arts, from the bloodline inheritance of an immortal king, no, an immortal emperor, the black mist's owner murmured, his gaze flickering with greed. He wanted to chase after that profound immortal, but he knew that even for him, it would take considerable effort and not a short amount of time to catch up to that profound immortal. And he had no time left. The black mist's owner cast a glance toward Saki and the others, only to find that they were now struggling to some degree. It was that profound immortal's doing just now. With a light snort, streams of Jihu Qi surged out, pouring into the bodies of Saki and others, causing them to tremble and convulse violently. Moments later, as the Jihu Qi slowly dissipated, the somewhat struggling appearance of Saki and the others vanished along with it. Master, they looked up respectfully at the figure within the black mist. Let's go. The figure within the black mist took Saki and the others and flew towards the massive heavenly boat in the distance. Soon, the heavenly boat moved again, heading towards that immensely terrifying rift. In the starry sky far away, space fluctuated, and Lu Yi emerged with Sabin and the others. Lu Yi glanced over his shoulder, ensuring the spatial line was normal, that the immortal monarch-level powerhouse hadn't caught up. Lu Yi let out a slight sigh of relief. He had been careless this time, not expecting to encounter an immortal monarch-level powerhouse. Fortunately, he had fled quickly. If he had been ensnared, he would have probably needed to use his last resort without any reservations. However, Lu Yi himself wasn't too frightened. The immortal monarch-level powerhouse didn't seem to be one of the more powerful ones among immortal monarchs. If he burst forth with all his might, plus the acquired spirit treasure, even if he wasn't a match, he should have no problem ensuring his own safety. Lu Yi thought to himself, and soon his brows deeply furrowed. I didn't expect to encounter a follower of Jihu in the cosmos. The aura was very similar to that of a pure Jihu demon, but it likely wasn't a true Jihu demon. If it was infused with Jihu Qi, it must have been corroded for countless years, almost completely transformed into a demon. If such a dangerous existence had been discovered earlier, with the Yu family's stance toward Jihu, he should have been mercilessly hunted down. Merely an immortal monarch-level Jihu demon should not be able to escape under the pursuit of the Yu family. And yet he existed just like that. Lu Yi looked at the profound rift, and his eyes flickered. Did that Jihu fellow intend to enter the Abyss ruins? What were they going in there for? Or was it that the fellow originally came from there? Although Lu Yi was very curious as to whether that heavenly boat truly intended to enter the Abyss ruins, after thinking it over, he decided not to continue investigating. If that immortal monarch was lying in wait for him, wouldn't going back be like walking into a trap? He no longer intended to involve himself in this matter. Lu Yi planned to inform the Yu family. The Abyss ruins were originally located at the border region between the Sky Falling Star Domain and the Crystal Spirit Star Domain. If the Jihu demons and the Abyss ruins were related, the powerhouses of the Sky Falling Star Domain and the Crystal Spirit Star Domain would surely seek to understand the situation. It no longer concerned him. Taking a deep breath, he turned to the still somewhat dazed Nuke and the others. Are you all right? Chapter 731, 344, Tense Yu Family. Chapter 731, Chapter 344, Tense Yu Family. At that moment, Nuke and the others all had looks of lingering fear on their faces. It was only after hearing Lu Yi's words that they managed to regain their composure. Sabin and the group of clan elders exchanged glances, all wearing bitter expressions on their faces. Then Sabin bowed deeply to Lu Yi and sighed. I didn't expect that this time Mr. Lu would face such a perilous situation. This was an oversight on the part of our Bolo's clan. Lu Yi waved his hand. It's fine, aren't we all still alive? Thank you, Mr. Lu, for not blaming our Bolo's clan, Sabin said gratefully. After all, they were facing an immortal monarch-level powerhouse this time. Although Sabin never anticipated encountering such a powerful being, the reality was that it had put Lu Yi in danger. Lu Yi was an important figure in the Yu family, and it was already a great favor that he helped the Bolo's clan look for their lost clan members. The fact that he was put in danger would not sit well with the Yu family if word got out, indifferent though Lu Yi might be. Moreover, Lu Yi had indeed led them to find their missing clan members. Such a great favor from Mr. Lu required that the Bolo's clan repay him generously. The many members of the Bolo's clan spoke up one after another. Mr. Lu has a broad heart, thank you, Mr. Lu. To think we would encounter an immortal monarch in the end. Mr. Lu's strength is astounding, being able to escape from an immortal monarch's grasp with us. Lu Yi looked at them as they heaped on extravagant flattery, feeling utterly unmoved inside. He had heard such talk too many times. All right, let's head back, he said. Lu Yi planned to return as quickly as possible and inform the Yu family about their encounter with the Jiu demons in the Abyss ruins. If they waited too long, Lu Yi feared serious trouble would ensue. After all, the power of Jiu Qi to erode was too strong. Subsequently, Lu Yi took Nuke and the others aboard the Red Sun boat, flying towards Tiananmen at the highest speed. When they had set out to look for the missing Bolo's clan members, they had not used the Stargate due to the need to follow the Fate Line. But now, not needing to follow the Fate Line, they could use the Stargate to travel, greatly speeding up their journey. In just half a year, they had passed through the Three-Eyed Star region. Sabin and the other clan elders bid farewell to Lu Yi. They needed to return and discuss the recent events with the other clan elders in their home, as well as to make plans for the future. Before leaving, Sabin said earnestly to Lu Yi, "During this affair, Mr. Lu has done much for our Bolo's clan. We can never repay such a great favor. From now on, if Mr. Lu has any request, our Bolo's clan will do our utmost to assist." Lu Yi chuckled lightly. "I actually don't need you to do much, just manage that commercial planet in Tiananmen well." Sabin quickly nodded, then turned to Nuke. "Nuke, this matter is now in your hands. From now on, the commercial planet in Tiananmen will be the most important project for our Bolo's clan." Nuke was the first successor of the Bolo's clan, and he was almost guaranteed to be the future clan leader, especially with his relationship with Mr. Lu, which almost confirmed it for Sabin. Nuke nodded seriously, "I understand." Afterwards, Sabin and the group of clan elders left. Only Lu Yi and Nuke remained on the Red Sun boat, the atmosphere becoming somber. Nuke looked at Lu Yi with immeasurable gratitude. "Mr. Lu, thank you for helping us find our lost clan members. I didn't anticipate it would put you in such a situation." Lu Yi chuckled lightly. "There's no need to mention it anymore. Your clan elders have already said it too many times. My ears are practically calloused." Nuke chuckled dryly, then his expression turned somewhat gloomy. "It's a pity we encountered an immortal monarch in the end. Otherwise, Mr. Lu would definitely have been able to rescue the Saki clan elders." Lu Yi patted Nuke on the shoulder. "Don't think too much about it. All this is dictated by fate. You might as well focus on your cultivation. If you can reach the peak of Golden Immortal, the top strength of the Bolo's clan will be restored, and if you can break through to Immortal Monarch, then in the future you could lead the Bolo's clan out of the Three-Eyed Star region to a broader stage." Hearing this, Nuke's eyes also showed a firm look. "Thank you for the guidance, Mr. Lu. I understand." Afterward, the Red Sun boat turned into a streak of light, passing through the Stargate, and soon they were back in the Tiananmen star system. Nuke and Lu Yi said goodbye. Nuke headed to the commercial planet, while Lu Yi returned to Ling Luo Peak. He didn't go back to his own cave mansion, but instead went to the peak of Ling Luo Peak, outside Han Guang's bamboo hut. He called out, "Brother Han Guang, come out, I need to talk to you." The door to Han Guang's bamboo hut did not open, but instead, the door to Yuanwu's bamboo hut beside it opened first. Yuanwu poked his head out, looking puzzledly at Lu Yi. "Brother-in-law, what's going on?" Lu Yi replied, "I'll explain later." After a bit, Han Guang also opened the door of his bamboo hut, looking curiously at Lu Yi. "Lu Yi, what do you need?" Seeing Lu Yi's solemn expression, the smile on Han Guang's face also faded. He pointed inside the bamboo hut, "Come in and talk." Lu Yi nodded and walked in alongside Yuanwu. As they sat down on chairs, Han Guang and Yuanwu looked curiously at Lu Yi. Han Guang asked, "What matter has made you so serious?" Han Guang is a very proud person, but ever since he saw Lu Yi's strength on the Ningyan battlefield, and as he has been listening to Lu Yi lecture over the years in the Tiananmen star system, his admiration for Lu Yi had grown more and more, even feeling himself far inferior to Lu Yi. Chapter 732, 344 Tense Moments at the Yu Family 2. Chapter 732, Chapter 344 Tense Moments at the Yu Family /2. In Yu Hangguang's memory, he had never seen Lu Yi with such an expression, not even that time on the Ningyan battlefield. Lu Yi took a deep breath and slowly recounted everything he had seen before. When hearing that Lu Yi encountered a being outside the abyss ruins with a strong Jiu Qi, suspected to be Jiu demons, both Yu Hangguang and Yu Yuanwu's eyes widened in shock and disbelief. Jiu demons in the universe, how is that possible? Yu Hangguang exclaimed in astonishment. Yes, how could it be possible? The Star Realm army has always been very strict in hunting down cultivators eroded by Jiu, let alone Jiu demons. If there really were Jiu demons, they would have been discovered a long time ago, said Yu Yuanwu. Although his cultivation base wasn't very strong, he was also aware of the Jiu demons. After all, he was a young master of the Yu family. Lu Yi's expression became solemn as he sighed lightly. Yeah, I also think it's impossible, but I saw it with my own eyes. And those missing members of the Bolos clan, they've all been eroded by Jiu Qi and have completely changed. Yu Hangguang and Yu Yuanwu looked at each other, at a loss for words. Then Yu Hangguang immediately stood up and said, I need to go to Jade Star. This is too serious, I must report to father. Lu Yi nodded, that's what I was thinking. Talk to Uncle Yu, and if there's anything I can help with, just let me know. Yu Hangguang nodded, enviously commenting, to think you could escape from an immortal monarch. With such strength, you might soon become one of the top powerhouses in the entire sky-falling star domain. Yu Yuanwu was brimming with pride. I knew my brother-in-law was mighty. Yu Hangguang gave Yu Yuanwu a glance. It's not you who's mighty, look at your current strength. Talk about breaking through to the golden immortal realm when you actually do it. Yu Yuanwu's mouth twitched and he fell silent. Without further delay, Yu Hangguang soon left Tiananmen. After informing others about the situation, Lu Yi felt somewhat relieved and returned to his own cave mansion. Encountering a being like the Jiu demons in the universe, and right outside a cosmic forbidden zone like the abyss ruins, made Lu Yi's heart sink. He suspected that there might be some connection between the abyss ruins and the Jiu demons. After all, the cosmic forbidden zones were mysterious. No one knew what truly lay inside them, nor how they were formed. It was just like how the cultivators of the universe didn't know why the immortal kings and immortal emperors were missing. If there was a connection between the cosmic forbidden zones and the Jiu demons, and now the Jiu demons had become active, the situation might not be very good. He needed to grow stronger quickly. Should any danger arise in the future, he would have enough strength to protect himself and those he cared about. Lu Yi cast aside his distracting thoughts and began to continue his cultivation. The Jade Star. Yu Hangguang and Yu Xin sat in the hall, the atmosphere heavy. Yu Hangguang had just recounted Lu Yi's previous words to Yu Xin, and now Yu Xin's brow was deeply furrowed, her expression extremely grim. The abyss ruins. People who are likely Jiu demons, or at least cultivators that have been eroded by Jiu Qi for a long time. There should never have been any Jiu Qi leaking from within the abyss ruins, nor should there be Jiu demons, said Yu Xin slowly. So is the Jiu demon that Lu Yi spoke of just passing by. According to what Lu Yi said, that Jiu demon eroded a group of cultivators from the Three-Eyed Star region and then left. Judging by its movements, could it be possible that it was heading towards the Crystal Spirit Star domain? Yu Hangguang speculated. Yu Xin pondered silently for a moment, then spoke. There might be such a possibility, or it could be related to the abyss ruins. By the way, did Yi mention the exact location? We should send someone to investigate. Yu Hangguang shook his head. Lu Yi didn't specify exact coordinates. I didn't think of these things at the time and immediately came back to report. Yu Xin nodded slightly. The 6th Military District where Tianfeng is stationed has a direct star gate to Tiananmen. Let Tianfeng find out more. Yu Hangguang nodded. All right. Also, father, should we inform the Crystal Spirit Star domain about this? Of course, we need to, regardless of whether the Jiu demons are heading toward the direction of the Crystal Spirit Star domain. After all, The Abyss ruins are at the border between the two clans. If any accident were to occur, it would be a huge problem for both our Sky Falling Star domain and the Crystal Spirit Star domain. What about Elder Yu Cheng? The other elders need to guard the Jiyu battlefield and can't leave. Elder Yu Cheng had many insights during years Tao Tide a while ago and is currently in seclusion. If successful, he may take a step toward becoming an immortal king. At this crucial moment, it's best not to disturb him. Upon hearing this, Yu Hangguang's eyes lit up, revealing an astonished expression. The elder has hope of breaking through. A trace of smile emerged on Yu Xin's solemn face. For now, it's just a sliver of hope. Having hope is better than none. Nowadays, how many immortal venerables are trapped by their shackles? If our elder can break through, then the pressure on us in the Sky Falling Star domain will be much less. After all, with an immortal king to guard, given the current state of the Jiyu channel, even the strongest of the Jiyu demons wouldn't be able to break out of the Jiyu battlefield. With this, their days would be much easier. Yu Xin cracked a slight smile. I actually hope the elder isn't in a hurry to break through and waits a bit longer. Yu Hangguang was taken aback. Why? Think about it, the elder just had an epiphany under years Tao Tide. If there's a chance to experience a few more Tao Tides, the elder's foundation will surely become more solid. By then, even if a breakthrough were to occur, the chances would be greater. Upon hearing this, Yu Hangguang also understood the logic and nodded. Then he sighed. Lu Yi is truly remarkable. I've never admired someone so much in my life. It's unexpected that he could now escape from the clutches of immortal monarch-level Jiyu foes. Yu Xin, hearing this, sighed in agreement. Yi is favored by the Tao, not an ordinary person. In the future, reaching the immortal king should be quite easy for him. Yu Hangguang nodded slightly. Yu Hangguang didn't harbor the slightest doubt that Lu Yi could break through to the immortal king realm in the future. If the elder could break through to immortal king, coupled with the future Lu Yi, our Sky Falling Star domain having two immortal kings, that would truly be peaceful. Yu Hangguang couldn't help but look forward to the future. Alright, let's deal with this matter first. The elder needs time to break through and Yi will need even more time. Before that, let's hope nothing chaotic happens, Yu Xin said. Yu Hangguang nodded and left the hall. After returning to Ling Luo Peak, Lu Yi's days once again became stable. He was now at the Profound Immortal 9th layer, and his next goal was the peak of Profound Immortal, followed by a breakthrough to the Golden Immortal realm. Once he broke through to the Golden Immortal realm and completed the task reward, he would undoubtedly gain an even stronger foundation. By then, with the cultivation base of the Golden Immortal realm and the acquired spirit treasure in hand, even if the gap between Immortal Monarch and Golden Immortal was vast, he would be able to confront it head-on. Lu Yi was looking forward to this. However, before Lu Yi had a year of peaceful cultivation, Yu Tianfeng and Yu Hangguang came together to see him. Ha, year, long time no see. I never thought you would cause such a commotion. Yu Tianfeng, upon seeing Lu Yi, was full of smiles. Lu Yi chuckled softly. Uncle Tianfeng, indeed it's been a long time. These years, why haven't you come to listen to my Tao lectures? I've been quite busy these years. There's unrest among the Heavenly Demon clan. Several star regions under my jurisdiction have seen a lot of heavenly demons. We could only focus on eliminating these heavenly demons and dealing with them before they caused more trouble. Lu Yi nodded in realization. Then he glanced at Yu Hangguang beside him and chuckled. Uncle Tianfeng, are you here because of the Jiyu demons? Yu Tianfeng's expression grew serious as he nodded. Yes. With such a powerful Jiyu cultivator appearing in the universe, the whole Yu family is on edge. We've already started communication with the Crystal Spirit clan of the Crystal Spirit Star domain. But before that, I need to understand more about the situation. Lu Yi nodded slightly. Of course, no problem. What would you like to know, Uncle Tianfeng? Chapter 733, 345 Action in the Crystal Spirit Star domain. Chapter 733. Chapter 345 Action in the Crystal Spirit Star domain. Year, I heard you discovered the Jiyu demons while helping the Bolos clan from the Three-Eyed Star region find their missing tribespeople. Yu Tianfeng began by asking. Lu Yi nodded. Yes, those missing tribespeople had all been corrupted by the Jiyu demons. Yu Tianfeng nodded slowly. Could Year accompany me on a trip to the Bolos clan's homeland? Perhaps by tracing the tracks of those missing tribespeople, we can uncover the intentions of the Jiyu demons. Of course, that's no problem at all. The first heir of the Bolos clan is currently on the commercial planet. We can just go and find him and he can take us there, Yi replied. That would be perfect, Yu Tianfeng said. After that, Lu Yi took both Yu Tianfeng and Yu Hangguang to the commercial planet. Ever since returning from the Abyss ruins, Nuke no longer needed to travel in search of the Bolos clan's elders. Furthermore, the remaining elders of the Bolos clan had issued a strict order to prioritize Lu Yi's commercial planet. Nuke remained on the commercial planet, collaborating with Jiang Fan and others to manage it. Although other top forces of the Three-Eyed Star region were somewhat dissatisfied with Nuke managing the commercial planet again after his return, it was Lu Yi's will, and naturally, no one dared to complain much. When Lu Yi found Nuke, he was sorting through a pile of documents and seemed very troubled. Upon seeing Lu Yi, he quickly stood up to greet him. "Young Master Lu, what brings you here?" When he saw Yu Tianfeng and Yu Hangguang beside Lu Yi, Nuke had his suspicions. Lu Yi chuckled, "You'll take us to the clan's lands. The Yu family wants to investigate the situation." "Just as I thought." Nuke muttered to himself, naturally having no objections. In fact, the Jiu demons at the Immortal Monarch level had deeply unsettled the Bolos clan. The clan's elders were deeply afraid that the Jiu demon would return and corrupt all the remaining members of the Bolos clan. Now that the Yu family was willing to investigate this matter, it was an immense relief for the Bolos clan. He quickly nodded. "No problem, young Master Lu, shall we set off now?" "Let's go now." When the Red Sun boat appeared on planet Bolos, Sabin led the elders of the Bolos clan, who were already waiting for them. This reception was similar to the initial one for Lu Yi, with all the elders together, and was the highest form of respect. Yu Tianfeng was used to this, being the 6th military leader of the Star Realm Army and representing the Yu family. Almost all powers within the sky-falling star domain showed him the greatest respect. After some brief pleasantries, Sabin led everyone to the temple. Afterward, Yu Tianfeng carefully gathered information about the missing elders of the Bolos clan, including their names, cultivation base, age, and primary cultivation techniques, among other details. The more detailed our understanding of the corrupted Bolos tribespeople, the more likely we are to understand the mission of the Jiu demons, Yu Tianfeng said. Lu Yi suddenly realized there were many missing Bolos clan cultivators. Investigating them all would require substantial effort. However, since he wasn't the one doing the work, Lu Yi naturally had no objections. After understanding the general situation, Yu Tianfeng dispatched Yu Hangguang to inform the Star Realm Army cultivators to investigate the movements of these missing cultivators. Later, once Yu Hangguang returned, Yu Tianfeng looked towards Lu Yi again, saying, "Yi, could you trouble you to lead us to the area where the Jiu demons were discovered?" "Of course, that's no problem." The region where they were located was very barren, devoid of any life planets, and the sky-falling star domain had very little control over that area. For others, it might be challenging to pinpoint the exact spatial coordinates. But Lu Yi, who possessed a perfect-level space law, was also highly sensitive to spatial coordinates. Under Lu Yi's guidance, they traveled swiftly and soon arrived at the area where the Jiu demon was initially discovered. Lu Yi looked at the barren landscape again, squinting slightly. His eyes shimmered with profound Tao light as he fully activated his fate skill. Then Lu Yi saw some vague and dim fate lines drifting towards a vast and profound crevice in the distance, ultimately sinking into that fissure. Lu Yi's heart sank a little. Indeed, the Jiu demon had gone to the Abyss ruins. The primary purpose of Lu Yi bringing Yu Tianfeng and others here was to see where the Jiu demon had gone. After the previous encounter, Lu Yi had a clear grasp of the fate lines of the Jiu demon and Bolos clan elders like Saki. However, it was surprising that the fate lines had dimmed so much in less than 5 years. Normally, the fate trajectory walked by a cultivator at the golden immortal level would at least fade over tens or even millions of years, right? The fact that the fate lines had dimmed so significantly in such a short time was indeed bizarre. Lu Yi thoughtfully considered whether the Jiu Qi of the Jiu demon could also erase the traces of fate. Or perhaps the Jiu demon itself had some means of controlling fate, which is why it erased the tracks along the way. As Lu Yi pondered, both Yu Tianfeng and Yu Hangguang also observed their surroundings. Yu Tianfeng closed his eyes to sense the area. After a long time, he slowly opened his eyes, a hint of golden light shining within. There are indeed traces of Jiyu Qi remaining, but they have become very faint. If we had arrived a bit later, it might have disappeared. Chapter 734, 345 Action in the Crystal Spirit Star Domain 2. Chapter 734-345 Action in the Crystal Spirit Star Domain /2. He spoke, his expression growing more solemn. This meant that there were powerful Jiyu cultivators still at large in reality. It was an irony for the Star Realm army. Yu Hangguang beside him also had a solemn expression, and he asked worriedly, "Uncle Tianfeng, where exactly has that Jiyu cultivator gone? Can he still be found?" Yu Tianfeng's expression was stern as he slowly said, "The 12th Legion is in charge of this area, and they will fully investigate the Jiyu cultivator when the time comes. The direction of the Crystal Spirit Star Domain has also received the message from the family head. They should also be making the necessary preparations. As long as he is still there, we will definitely find him." A Jiyu cultivator of Immortal Monarch level was too dangerous. If left unchecked, it wouldn't take long for several star regions to be directly eroded by Jiyu. If such a situation really occurred, it wouldn't be long before Jiyu descended into their universe. Everything concerning Jiyu, no matter what, was of utmost importance. Even if the Sky-Falling Star Domain and Crystal Spirit Star Domain were in a big war, they would have to stop the war and come together to deal with this matter, let alone now when the two factions were relatively peaceful, with only minor skirmishes happening at most. It was at this moment that Lu Yi's voice gradually arose. "Uncle Tianfeng, I'm afraid that neither the 12th Legion nor the Star Spirit Star Domain will be able to find that Jiyu cultivator." Hearing this, Yu Tianfeng and Yu Hangguang among others were startled, looking at Lu Yi in surprise. If someone else had said this, Yu Tianfeng would have been angry, for he was well aware of the strength of the Star Realm army. If the area had been locked down, finding a Jiyu cultivator meant there would be no escape for him. But someone actually believed that their Star Realm army couldn't find the Jiyu cultivator. This was completely underestimating the Star Realm army. However, since the person saying this was Lu Yi, Yu Tianfeng didn't get angry but instead looked even more solemn. Yu Tianfeng did not believe that Lu Yi would say such a thing without reason. He frowned and asked, "Yi, what have you found?" Lu Yi nodded. That Jiyu cultivator may have taken the corrupted cultivators into the Abyss ruins." Hearing this, Yu Tianfeng, Yu Hangguang, and Sabin nearby all trembled, their eyes widening. Yu Tianfeng exclaimed in astonishment, "How is that possible? That is the Abyss ruins." Yu Hangguang also murmured, "Yes, Lu Yi, the Abyss ruins are extremely dangerous. Even if the Jiyu cultivator is at the Immortal Monarch level, venturing deep into the Abyss ruins would mean no return. That's a zone even our Yu family ancestors dare not enter deep into. The ancestors of the Yu family are at the Immortal Venerable level." Lu Yi sighed helplessly. "I also hope it's not the case, but I believe it shouldn't be wrong." Yu Tianfeng looked at Lu Yi in surprise. "Yi, how did you find this out?" Lu Yi smiled and said, "I have cultivated the fate skill and have reached a deep realm in it. I saw their fate lines heading towards the Abyss ruins." Yu Tianfeng, Yu Hangguang. As important members of the Yu family, of course, they knew about the fate skill, which was the secret technique of the Yu family. As important figures, Yu Hangguang and Yu Tianfeng had also cultivated the fate skill, which could play a significant role in many situations, and almost all Yu family powerhouses and geniuses would cultivate this technique. When they first arrived here, they had also tried using the fate skill to investigate. But both of them had found nothing, and to think, Lu Yi could actually see the fate line. This indicated a vast difference in their cultivation levels of the fate skill. Yu Tianfeng inhaled deeply, his mouth twitching slightly, and then he smiled wryly. "You really are, your talent is frightening. The fate skill is extremely difficult to master proficiently, but to think you could already see the fate line, such cultivation might even surpass our ancestor right." Lu Yi modestly smiled. "I just have decent comprehension." Yu Tianfeng and Yu Hangguang were speechless. This is called decent. What should they call themselves then, dull-witted or idiots? As geniuses of the Yu family, the two possessed extraordinary comprehension, but they simply couldn't compare to Lu Yi. Yu Tianfeng shook his head, deciding not to dwell on the matter any longer. His expression grew even more solemn as he spoke slowly. "Yi, are you certain that the fate line truly drifted towards the Abyss ruins?" Lu Yi nodded slightly before he spoke. From our current position, the direction of the fate line indeed seems to head towards the Abyss Ruins. However, whether they actually entered the Abyss Ruins or left at the edge of it remains unknown. To be more certain, we need to move deeper into the direction of the Abyss Ruins. Upon hearing this, Yu Tianfeng tugged at the corner of his mouth. Let's not. We are already not far from the Abyss Ruins. Getting any closer could be very dangerous given our strength. After saying this, Yu Tianfeng paused for a moment, then thoughtfully added, I will go back and inform the elder ancestor. Given that this matter involves the Abyss Ruins, it's likely even more complicated. It's best to let the elder ancestor decide. Naturally, Lu Yi had no objections and nodded, good. Afterward, Yu Tianfeng gave a wry smile, looked at Lu Yi and said, Year, you've had a hard time this journey, let's head back now. A group of them rode the Red Sun boat, turning into streaks of light, vanishing into the starry sky. When Lu Yi returned to Ling Luo Peak, Yu Tianfeng bid farewell to Lu Yi, while Yu Hangguang did not follow them in leaving. After all, the current task was not about a major battle. On one hand, it involved investigating specific information about the missing cultivators, and on the other, the issue with the Abyss Ruins. For the former, many people were needed for the investigation. Having one more or one less Yu Hangguang there made no difference, and his presence would be meaningless. As for the latter, involving the cosmic forbidden zone, it wasn't something Yu Hangguang could involve himself with. Even Lu Yi had been advised by Yu Tianfeng not to be curious about the situation in the Abyss Ruins, to avoid inevitable danger. In fact, even without Yu Tianfeng's warning, Lu Yi wouldn't recklessly risk his life. That place was a dangerous area, even formidable beings at the immortal venerable level couldn't approach deeply. How could he possibly consider going there for amusement? With his current strength, it would definitely be dangerous if he really went there. Lu Yi did not think his current power was comparable to that of an immortal venerable. Honestly, when he agreed to help the Bolos clan investigate their missing clansmen, Lu Yi had never expected to encounter an immortal monarch-level powerhouse. He originally thought it was just a routine matter, but an unexpected situation arose. Otherwise, he certainly wouldn't have gone. How nice would it be to calmly cultivate at home? Lu Yi's current cultivation resources were quite ample. He could completely continue cultivating in his cave mansion and check the situation once his strength was sufficient. After parting with Yu Tianfeng, Lu Yi and Yu Hangguang also went their separate ways. Lu Yi resumed his quiet cultivation. This time, Lu Yi's goal was to reach the peak of profound immortal quickly, and then break through to the golden immortal realm. In the following years, Lu Yi was not disturbed and cultivated securely. However, Yu Hangguang did occasionally update Lu Yi about the progress of the investigation. About the investigation of the missing cultivators, of course, the Star Realm Army didn't need to take action. The Yu family army was sufficient. Many from the Yu family army went to various areas of the Three-Eyed Star region to investigate the affairs and experiences of those cultivators. With the backing of the Yu family, they faced almost no difficulty, and the investigation progressed quickly. But the obtained information contained no intelligence related to the Jiyu cultivator. As for the matter of the Abyss Ruins, Lu Yi heard from Yu Hangguang that it seemed the Yu family ancestor was currently in closed-door cultivation, temporarily unable to conduct an investigation. Nevertheless, they had notified the Crystal Spirit Star domain about the Jiyu cultivators entering the Abyss Ruins. The Crystal Spirit Star domain had now started to dispatch strong individuals planning to enter the Abyss Ruins to inspect the situation. Yu Hangguang mentioned that this time, the Crystal Spirit Star domain had sent out 3 immortal monarch-level powerhouses, accompanied by more than 10 golden immortals, a significant move indeed. Chapter 735, 346 Fate Immortal King. Lu Yi was actually quite anticipatory regarding the actions of the powerhouses from the Crystal Spirit Star domain. If they truly could find the Jiyu demons, it would be immensely beneficial for the Sky Falling Star domain as well. Thus, Lu Yi naturally hoped they would successfully find their target. As the powerhouses from the Crystal Spirit Star domain entered, the Abyss Ruins became very quiet. The powerhouses from both the Sky Falling Star domain and the Crystal Spirit Star domain fixed their gazes on the ruins, waiting for those mighty beings to emerge. During this period, Lu Yi continued his cultivation in peace and tranquility. In the blink of an eye, nearly 100 years had passed. Lu Yi's cultivation base finally broke through to the peak of the profound immortal, merely a single step away from the golden immortal realm. Right after his breakthrough, he promptly released a task for breaking through to the golden immortal realm. As Lu Yi had expected, the rewards for the breakthrough task were as generous as ever. It awarded a total of 10 hearts of chaos, which seemed to be even more precious than the chaos treasures he had been rewarded previously. Of course, Lu Yi was delighted to accept the task, and his next objective was to break through to the golden immortal realm in a stable manner. Time continued to flow, and another 30 years passed. One day, while Lu Yi was in seclusion, he suddenly sensed a presence nearing, and he opened his eyes and walked out of his cave mansion. A figure landed outside of Lu Yi's cave mansion, causing quite a stir and startling little star, who was sleeping. It was none other than Yu Hangguang. Seeing Yu Hangguang's somewhat urgent demeanor, Lu Yi couldn't help but raise an eyebrow. "Brother Hangguang, what's wrong? Why are you in such a hurry?" Yu Hangguang took a deep breath and then said, "There's news from those of the Crystal Spirit clan who entered the Abyss ruins." Lu Yi was taken aback, and seeing Yu Hangguang's somber expression, he couldn't help but frown. Not good news. Yu Hangguang's mouth twitched slightly, and he managed a bitter smile. Of the 3 immortal monarchs and more than 10 golden immortals that went in, only one immortal monarch escaped with severe injuries and is said to have died just after uttering a single phrase. Upon hearing this, Lu Yi was also greatly shocked. 3 immortal monarchs and more than a dozen golden immortals had nearly all perished. It should be known that those cultivators who entered the Abyss ruins were aware of its horrors. They certainly wouldn't have ventured deeply into the ruins and were merely exploring the peripheral areas. Moreover, they would have been extremely cautious and carried many trump cards with them. Even so, among them, only one immortal monarch-level power managed to escape and died shortly after from severe injuries. One could only imagine just how dangerous the Abyss ruins were. Lu Yi felt somewhat relieved that he hadn't let his curiosity get the better of him about the Abyss ruins and hadn't followed the Jiu cultivator to see for himself. In fact, with Lu Yi's abilities, he could have easily followed them unnoticed by the immortal monarch-level Jiu cultivator, but in the end, he abstained. After all, it was far too dangerous. Now thinking about it, Lu Yi was glad that he had been rational at the time. Otherwise, his fate might have been sealed as well. Overwhelmed with thoughts, Lu Yi then asked, "By the way, what did that immortal monarch strongman say?" Yu Hangguang's eyes flickered, and his face took on a very strange expression. After a moment of silence, he slowly said, "That immortal monarch uttered just 4 words." 4 words? Lu Yi looked bewildered. What did he say? "Brother Hangguang, don't play riddles with me." Yu Hangguang gave a wry smile. "Fate Immortal King, he only said these 4 words." Lu Yi was startled, somewhat astonished. "Fate Immortal King, what does that mean?" Yu Hangguang shook his head. "I don't know, but Lu Yi, as you know, our Yu family has the secret technique of the fate skill." Lu Yi nodded slightly. "Of course I know." After all, he had cultivated to the limit realm. Then with a slightly odd expression, Lu Yi said, "The fate skill, the Fate Immortal King. Could it be that the fate skill is the inheritance of the Fate Immortal King? Could it be that those powerhouses from the Crystal Spirit clan encountered the inheritance of an immortal king in the Abyss ruins?" Yu Hangguang shook his head and then said, "I don't know." He fell silent for a moment before continuing. "However, I've heard that some from the Crystal Spirit clan believe that the Abyss ruins is the burial ground of that Fate Immortal King, with traps he laid down that are extremely terrifying. Even immortal venerable level powerhouses cannot delve deep inside. It's likely for this reason." Lu Yi pondered, then furrowed his brows. Could it be that the Jiu cultivator who entered the Abyss ruins did so in pursuit of the Fate Immortal King's tomb? Yu Hangguang shook his head. "I don't know, but according to what we understand now, this possibility is not small." Lu Yi felt a serious weight in his heart. So the Jiu cultivator was that confident they could enter the Abyss ruins. After all, this time the Crystal Spirit clan had dispatched 3 immortal monarchs, and in the end, they still perished inside. Even if the Jiu cultivator were stronger than the 3 immortal monarchs, there would still be a limit, right? Lu Yi did not believe that the Jiu cultivator could be so confident. Perhaps the Jiu cultivator held some unknown trump card. Lu Yi mused to himself. Yu Hangguang was also in deep thought at his side. Both were somewhat silent. After a while, Lu Yi asked, "So, will the Crystal Spirit clan continue to send cultivators into the Abyss ruins?" Yu Hangguang rolled his eyes. You think immortal monarchs grow like cabbages. The loss of 3 immortal monarchs is enough to cause the Crystal Spirit clan considerable pain for a long time. They won't likely send more immortal monarchs to the Abyss ruins in the short term, unless they have the audacity to dispatch an immortal venerable level ancestor. But that's highly unlikely, as there are many GU battlefields within the Crystal Spirit Star domain that require the immortal venerables to be on guard. They cannot leave. Chapter 736, 346 Fate Immortal King 2. What about that GU cultivator? Lu Yi couldn't help but ask. Now, the Crystal Spirit clan and our Yu family have already discussed this. Both clans have sent cultivators to guard outside the Abyss ruins. If that GU cultivator breaks out of the Abyss ruins, we will be able to receive the news immediately and can react quickly. Hearing this, Lu Yi nodded slightly. It indeed was a solution. That will have to do then. Indeed, who knows what that GU cultivator was thinking to dare to venture so deep into the Abyss ruins. Even Yu Hangguang couldn't help but complain. Yu Hangguang came to see Lu Yi this time to discuss matters about the Crystal Spirit clan's experts, and afterward, Yu Hangguang took his leave, and Lu Yi also returned to his cave mansion. Although he was still a bit worried about that GU cultivator, after all, the corrosion ability of GU demonic Qi was too strong, and it was easy to cause big trouble if one was not careful. However, Lu Yi couldn't do much, and he didn't think too much about it, going back to continue his cultivation. Break through his cultivation base as quickly as possible. In the following time, Lu Yi's situation returned to being stable. Although the Bolos clan had lost 1/3 of their top combat strength, and their influence in the entire Three-Eyed Star region had decreased significantly, their relationship with Lu Yi was good, and the top powers in the Three-Eyed Star region had to show face to Lu Yi, so the Bolos clan managed to preserve some of their resources and wealth. However, during this period, the Bolos clan also shifted their focus to the commercial planets in the Tiananmen star system, contracting their original influence and yielding some benefits to other powers, which allowed them to live very stably. Furthermore, elders like Sabin from the Bolos clan had already issued orders to have the top geniuses among the younger generation of the Bolos clan go to the commercial planets to support Nuke and do their best to curry favor with Lu Yi. Lu Yi knew this well, but he didn't say much about it. Time passed, and in the blink of an eye, 100 years had gone by. Lu Yi had finally reached the pinnacle of the profound immortal realm. For this breakthrough, Lu Yi once again chose to go to Jade Star. He arrived at Ling Luo Peak, found the Ling Luo Peak master, Yu Hangguang and Yu Yuanwu, and explained the situation. What? You're about to break through to the golden immortal realm, brother-in-law. When Yu Yuanwu heard that Lu Yi was about to break through to the golden immortal, he was stunned. He was still far from reaching the golden immortal himself. Even though he could listen to Lu Yi's teachings periodically, and his own talent was quite good, allowing him an almost bottleneck-free path, with the cultivation environment being quite favorable, and having no shortage of cultivation resources as a direct lineage genius of the Yu family. Such conditions could be said to be what all cultivators dream of. Even so, Yu Yuanwu felt he still needed about 2,000 to 3,000 years to break through to the golden immortal realm. And Lu Yi, he had just broken through to the profound immortal realm about 1,000 years ago, and now, in just 1,000 years, he had soared all the way from the profound immortal realm to the golden immortal realm. Yu Yuanwu even began to doubt life. In fact, not just Yu Yuanwu, Yu Hangguang next to him was also dumbfounded. Over the years, he had stayed in Tiananmen, listening to Lu Yi's teachings every time and reaping substantial benefits. Now his cultivation had improved a lot, breaking through the early and middle stages of the Golden Immortal and reaching the 4th layer of Golden Immortal. Originally, Yu Hangguang was quite satisfied with his cultivation speed, but now, hearing that Lu Yi was about to break through to the Golden Immortal realm, he felt that he had been too easily content and was somewhat ashamed. With such a big gap between himself and Lu Yi, not to talk about catching up to Lu Yi, he definitely had to try harder. Yu Hangguang muttered to himself inwardly, resolving to practice even harder. The Ling Luo Peak master next to him was already numb. After all, Yu Lingluo had spent the longest time with Lu Yi. From the time Lu Yi had first entered the inner sect of the White Cloud sect, entered Ling Luo Peak, and became her disciple, the two had always been together. Yu Lingluo had long been accustomed to Lu Yi's talent. Even so, she couldn't help but feel a bit of awe in her heart. She had never imagined that the disciple she took on out of boredom would have such an exaggerated talent. It had only been a few thousand years, yet he had already surpassed her by so much. She spoke, "So, you're thinking of returning to Jade Star to break through." The Ling Luo Peak Master, who was very familiar with Lu Yi, guessed his thoughts immediately. Lu Yi nodded. "Yes, this breakthrough is likely to cause even more disturbance. I believe the ancestor might gain more understanding of the Tao, which would be greatly beneficial for the ancestor to break through to the immortal king realm." Hearing this, Yu Hangguang and the others exchanged looks. Yu Yuanwu cracked a smile and said, "That's good news, brother-in-law. True to your form, with you around, I believe our Yu family can really produce an immortal king." Yu Hangguang also smiled slightly, perhaps not just one. If Elder Yu Qing breaks through to immortal king, the other elders will have more time. By then, as long as they can obtain Lu Yi's Tao understanding, they also have a good chance to break through to the immortal king realm. Yu Yuanwu's eyes began to shine at the thought of that future. If we really have several immortal kings, wouldn't our Yu family be invincible? The Ling Luo Peak Master said dryly, "Even the immortal emperor disappeared for reasons unknown, let alone immortal kings. Where does that leave being invincible?" Yu Hangguang chuckled slightly. "Ling Luo's statement is rather conclusive. Who can be sure about the matters of the ancient times? At the very least, in our current universe, there are probably no cultivators at the immortal king level. If our elder Yu Cheng and others become immortal kings, then in the universe, our family would definitely be among the top forces. Not to mention, it would make resisting the Jihu demons much easier." The Ling Luo Peak Master thought it over and felt it made sense. She looked at Lu Yi and couldn't help but feel it strange that his breakthrough seemed to benefit the elders more. She shrugged helplessly. "In that case, when do we leave?" Lu Yi said, "I'll go find my sisters and we can leave now." "We have no objections," stated Yu Hangguang and Yu Yuanwu. Afterward, Lu Yi went to find Liu Ningxuang and the others. In recent days, the four had been diligently cultivating and understanding the law. Of course, they hadn't neglected dual cultivation either. All four were now at the profound immortal realm. If they used the yin-yang Tao seal now, Lu Yi's power could surge even further. Though it wasn't as suitable for him as the secret technique, Heavenly Heart technique, it was still an extremely powerful asset. Hearing about Lu Yi's breakthrough, Donggong Ming Yue's eyes lit up, and she revealed a smile. "I knew that brother would definitely break through in these few years." Yunzai nodded slightly, the ethereal smile on her face deepening. "Yes, during the dual cultivation process we sensed it the most." Yunzai, who always spoke her mind, made Liu Ningxuang's face turn slightly red as she couldn't help but glance at Yunzai, then said with a light smile, "Congratulations to junior brother. After golden immortal with your combat strength, you should be able to fight an immortal monarch, right? Need you even ask? Our freak junior brother has an acquired spirit treasure. With the acquired spirit treasure, battling an immortal monarch should be no problem." Jian Ruyu put her hands on her hips, very proud, as if she could fight the immortal monarch herself. Liu Ningxuang and the others were aware of his possession of the acquired spirit treasure, and Lu Yi had no intention of hiding it from them, especially since they had been with him at the Zhenan battlefield when he used the eternal light shield. Seeing the excitement of the four, Lu Yi also smiled and said, "Once I've broken through, I should be one of the top powerhouses in this three-eyed star region." Lu Yi wasn't sure whether there were any hidden immortal monarch-level powerhouses in the three-eyed star region. Upon this thought, Lu Yi suddenly paused, wondering if there might actually be hidden immortal kings and immortal emperors who hadn't died in the universe. Lu Yi's expression turned slightly peculiar. However, he quickly stopped caring. After all, he was still just an average profound immortal, and even if he was about to break through to golden immortal, he was still weak compared to immortal kings and immortal emperors, so why worry about it? "Let's go, let's head to Jade Star to break through." Lu Yi led Liu Ningxuang and the others to the top of Ling Luo Peak. Then a party boarded the Red Sun boat, departed from Tiananmen, and flew toward Jade Star. Chapter 737, 347, Is This the Heavenly Tribulation? Jade Star. When Lu Yi and his party were on their way, they had already notified Yu Zin. By the time they arrived at Jade Star, Yu Zin had already made arrangements. Like the last time, Yu Zin hoped that Lu Yi could wait a few days. The Tao tide brought on by Lu Yi's breakthrough last time at Jade Star was too magnificent. All the cultivators present on Jade's star at the time had gained tremendous improvements. However, besides a portion of the Yu family's strong members who had to stand guard at their posts, a considerable number of powerful members were out for training and could not make it back in time, missing that great opportunity. For those talented powerhouses of the Yu family, it was an immense loss. For the Yu family, it was also a significant loss. After all, the more strong members the Yu family had, the better it was for the whole clan. This time, Yu Xin hoped that Lu Yi could wait a few more days. As soon as they had notified him, he had used the Yu family's secret techniques to inform the talented Yu family members who were out training. At this moment, those talented members were rushing back frantically. For Lu Yi it naturally didn't matter. Waiting a few days had no impact on him. The Yu family was his strong support. The stronger they were, the safer he would obviously be. Is the ancestor still in seclusion? Lu Yi asked curiously. Yu Xin nodded slightly, sighing. Yes, after the last Tao Tide the ancestor made huge gains. He has had insights from time to time over the years and often goes into seclusion. Even when he comes out to give instructions, it is only for a few days at most. Lu Yi nodded slightly, smiling. That's good news. Perhaps the ancestor will soon have hope of breaking through to the immortal king realm. Ha 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 ha. Yu Xin laughed heartily, his face glowing red. This time, the Tao Tide brought by your breakthrough year might truly give the ancestor the chance to cross that chasm between the heavens. A look of anticipation appeared in Lu Yi's eyes. If that's the case, the sky-falling star domain will be much safer. Yu Xin nodded slightly and then sighed. Alas, there have been incessant troubles in recent years. Lu Yi was taken aback, asking with some surprise, Uncle Yu, what's wrong? Apart from those Jiu cultivators you discovered, the Rashomon clan has been restless lately. Friction at the border is becoming more intense. Moreover, due to a lack of manpower lately, the heavenly demon group in various star regions are becoming more rampant, with endless troubles, Yu Xin said with a light sigh. Upon hearing Yu Xin's words, Lu Yi could not help but frown. Is the Rashomon clan planning to wage war against us? Yes, in the desolate star region on the border between our Tianluo star domain and the Rashomon star domain, several precious ore stars have been discovered. Coupled with the influence of the Jiu cultivators, we needed to dispatch an immortal monarch and several golden immortals to join the Crystal Spirit clan in guarding the outskirts of the Abyss ruins. Our manpower is somewhat strained, which has emboldened the Rashomon clan to make a move against us, Yu Xin said, frowning. Hearing this, Lu Yi frowned slightly and then spoke. It won't affect the interior, will it? That won't happen. Yu Xin shook his head and chuckled. At most, we'll have to cede some profit to the Rashomon clan. They are under pressure from the Jiu battlefield as well and won't commit to full-scale war with us. Lu Yi hesitated a moment then chuckled. If Uncle Yu needs me to do anything, just speak up. As long as I can manage it, I'll do my best. After his breakthrough to the golden immortal realm, combined with the various immortal techniques and secret techniques he had mastered, as well as the acquired spirit treasure, even facing an immortal monarch, Lu Yi would not be weaker. In this region, he would already be considered one of the top powerhouses. As long as no immortal venerable level big shots took action, he could handle things on his own. If the Rashomon clan were really going to make a move, Lu Yi could lend a hand. The Rashomon clan's immortal venerable would also need to suppress the Jiu battlefield and could not make a move, allowing Lu Yi to fully confront them. Moreover, there might even be some nice task rewards. With his strength increasing, Lu Yi now felt somewhat eager to try. Yu Xin chuckled. Ha 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 ha, good. With your strength year, if you break through to the golden immortal realm, you will be more than capable of suppressing such minor frictions. If we really need you to take action, I'll let you know. Lu Yi nodded. All right. By the way, any other news about the Abyss Ruins area? Yu Xin shook his head slightly. No news yet. Perhaps that Jiu cultivator has already died in the Abyss Ruins for all we know. Yu Xin said this jokingly, of course. He didn't believe that the Jiu cultivator would really perish so easily. After a lengthy exchange, it ended with Yu Xin planning to forcibly take Yu Lingluo to share a bridal chamber with Lu Yi, scaring him into fleeing quickly. The Yu family made many preparations for Lu Yi's breakthrough this time. They built a vast Tao platform in the vacuum of space. The Tao platforms were connected in sections, forming a circle that was surrounded by a multitude of arrangements. These arrangements were conducive to enhancing a cultivator's comprehension and concentrating the spirit and qi, precious array patterns for understanding the Tao. and this area was where the Yu family's powerhouses and geniuses would perceive the Tao tide caused by Lu Yi's breakthrough when the time came. Looking at the huge Tao platform that resembled a ring of stars, Lu Yi could not help but be amazed. It's worthy of the Yu family. They managed to build such a platform in just a few days. Standing by his side, Yu Yuanwu looked rather proud, smiling with his teeth showing. Of course, don't you see how many years the Yu family has existed? We still have that foundation. Yu Hangguang looked around and said lightly with a smile, Lu Yi, in these days, several younger members of the Yu family who get along well with me want to get to know you through me. They plan to hold a gathering. What do you think? If you're reluctant, then forget about it. Chapter 738-347, Is This the Heavenly Tribulation? 2. Chapter 738-347, Is This the Heavenly Tribulation? /2. Lu Yi raised his eyebrows and chuckled, Of course I can. The young members of the Yu family who had a good relationship with Yu Hangguang were mostly of high status and possessed strong talent. These geniuses, undoubtedly the future top powerhouses of the Yu family, would at the least become golden immortals, and perhaps some could even achieve the level of immortal monarchs. Getting to know them better was certainly beneficial. Haha, all right, I'll make the arrangements then. Yu Hangguang was very decisive and efficient, setting up a party at a residence on Jade Star just 2 days later. Many cultivators attended the party, each moving with the grace of dragons and the agility of tigers, their expressions brimming with confidence. All these cultivators were exceptional among their peers. However, even these outstanding individuals, upon seeing Lu Yi, still carried smiles filled with gratitude. Brother Lu, last time you induced the Tao tide, I was outside hunting the heavenly demon group and missed that great opportunity. It's a lifelong regret. I rushed back this time as soon as I could. Ha ha ha, indeed. If we miss it again this time, we might just get left behind by others. The young geniuses who had missed Lu Yi's Tao tide last time wore expressions of discomfort, as if donning masks of suffering. After all, such a Tao anomaly, even for cultivators at the immortal monarch level with their prolonged lifespans, might not occur even once, much less for them. Missing it was like missing an entire star sea. Last time I was just on Jade Star, lucky enough to perceive greatly. 1,000 years have passed and I haven't fully assimilated it, and here it comes again. Ha 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 ha, what a coincidence, me too. Worthy of Brother Lu, even our ancestor praises him endlessly. He's a talent that could induce such anomalies. After this time, I'll probably be able to hit the second stage of Golden Immortal, nearly 300 years earlier than expected. The Yu family geniuses who didn't miss out last time were flushed with excitement and overjoyed. At that moment, their gazes towards Lu Yi were filled with anticipation. Last time Lu Yi merely broke through to the profound immortal realm, causing such commotion. This time, it was hard to predict how much greater it would be. To Brother Lu. To Brother Lu. One by one, the young Yu family geniuses toasted Lu Yi, and Lu Yi smiled and toasted them back. In the midst of clinking cups and lively atmosphere, the young men of the Yu family embraced Lu Yi as brothers. Meanwhile, the young women of the Yu family gazed at Lu Yi, their beautiful eyes twinkling continuously. Even though Liu Ningxuang and the 3 other women stood by Lu Yi's side, those young women still couldn't resist lingering around Lu Yi a little longer, smiling sweetly with a very gentle expression. Yu Lingluo thought to herself, amazed, that these girls had previously seemed too proud to engage with men, yet they understood how to flirt so well. His Taoist couples were right there, didn't they feel awkward? Nothing but fox spirits. The party lasted for 2 days, and it wound up after 2 days. In the days following, Lu Yi occasionally visited the scripture pavilion of the Yu family to comprehend immortal scriptures and immortal techniques. Once he broke through to the golden immortal realm, he needed to deduce the Tao Yin Yang immortal scripture of the golden immortal level, requiring a deeper accumulation of knowledge. Fortunately, as Lu Yi's understanding of the Tao deepened, the immortal scriptures he reviewed increased, and this made his deductions relatively easier than before. As for immortal techniques, they were even easier. Each time Lu Yi cleared the Jiu battlefield instance, he was rewarded with options to increase his immortal technique level. Plus, with the unimaginably solid foundation behind Lu Yi, mastering an immortal technique to its extreme level, or even at the golden immortal skill level, would not take more than a month or at most a year. Even without the rewards for escalating immortal technique levels, A mere glance by Lu Yu was often enough to master the basics of an immortal technique, already clear in his mind. After spending some time in the Yu family scripture pavilion, Lu Yu continued to enrich his foundational knowledge. It was only later, when the Yu family had made their preparations, and elder Yu Cheng emerged from seclusion to continue experiencing the great Tao tide brought about by Lu Yi's breakthrough, that Lu Yi finally left the scripture pavilion. At first sight of elder Yu Cheng, Lu Yi immediately noticed the tremendous change in him from before. Initially, Lu Yi had not felt much of the Tao's essence from the Yu family ancestor, even when Yu Cheng had first started to perceive the Tao tide. But now, Lu Yi sensed a faint and elusive Taoyuan in elder Yu Cheng's presence, which appeared dreamy, mysterious, and exceedingly profound. If Lu Yi himself did not have a profound understanding of the Tao, he might not have even detected it. His eyes brightened and he smiled. Congratulations, elder, for taking that crucial step. Understanding the Tao is the first step from an immortal venerable toward becoming an immortal king, and it is a very crucial step. Once this step is taken, it signifies that Yu Cheng had begun to comprehend the origin power, no longer bounded by the laws, no longer beneath the Tao, but fusing with the origin through his own perceptions of the Tao. This is an extremely difficult process. However, the most challenging part is always the beginning. Once this step is taken, there is hope. Yu Cheng, who was usually unflustered and calm, now had a face full of joy and let out a few hearty laughs before he sighed. All thanks to you, Year. Yu Cheng's face was animated and he laughed lightly, showing unimaginable valor. I never thought I, Yu Cheng, would one day comprehend the origin. I thought I would be trapped in the immortal venerable realm for my whole life. Now that I have taken this step, I, Yu Cheng, will surely become an immortal king. He looked at Lu Yi and smiled. Otherwise, I would not do justice to all the effort you put in each time you came to Jade Star for your breakthroughs. Lu Yi chuckled lightly. Elder overestimates me. For me, making a breakthrough anywhere is the same, and since the Yu family has been so kind to me, of course, I must reciprocate. The Yu family had opened up their millennia-old accumulation of foundations, all the immortal scripture secret techniques, to Lu Yi. Even their treasury, as long as Lu Yi stated his needs, he just had to speak to Yu Zhen. One could say that the Yu family had given their all to him. Lu Yi was naturally not a stingy person. Yu Cheng shook his head with a slight laugh. The key to the immortal king realm is not something comparable to what the Yu family has provided. Without you, Year, my Yu family might not have had any hope of breaking through to the immortal king realm for a very long time. Yu Cheng did not dwell on this subject. He patted Lu Yi on the shoulder and said, enough of that, everything is ready. Year, you can break through any time now. At these words, Lu Yi's eyes lit up. Good, then I will go into seclusion. Yes, go to my place of seclusion. I will personally protect you, said Yu Cheng. Lu Yi naturally had no objections, and soon went to Yu Cheng's place of seclusion to begin his breakthrough. With Lu Yi's foundation, even the enormous bottleneck between the profound immortal and golden immortal realms was practically non-existent for him. Where other cultivators might need thousands of years to polish their skills, Lu Yi merely spent a few days to successfully break through. When Lu Yi soared into the sky and the heavenly tribulation began to gather, Yu Cheng, who was outside the cave mansion, was completely dumbfounded. Although he knew Lu Yi's breakthrough would not be difficult, the speed of it was entirely beyond his expectations. It was unbelievably fast. Yu Cheng did not ponder further, vanishing from his spot to arrive at the closest platform to Lu Yi. Lu Yi was in the center of a starry circular platform, planning his breakthrough at that location. At that moment, atop the platform, every few distances sat a genius cultivator of the Yu family in meditation. Seeing Lu Yi appear, their eyes sparkled with excitement and anticipation. It had started. Lu Yi stood in the void, looking into the vacuum area as bright, swift mystical lights of extraordinary colors converged, looking less like a heavenly tribulation and more like a beautiful and mesmerizing anomaly. Such an anomaly, however, made all the Yu family cultivators present feel tingles in their scalps. What in the world is this? Is this a heavenly tribulation? This thing was utterly made of countless exotic heavenly thunders. Could such a heavenly tribulation even be survived? Was that even possible? Chapter 739, 348, Unusual Movements of Red Star. Chapter 739-348, Unusual Movements of Red Star. Under the dull gazes of Yu family practitioners, spectacular heavenly tribulation surged forth, transforming into clusters of bizarre thunder light, torrentially advancing towards Lu Yi. That fearsome heavenly tribulation even made several practitioners of the immortal monarch realm from the Yu family furrow their brows involuntarily. Such powerful heavenly thunder! Yu Xin looked solemnly at the strange thunder light in the distance. By this point, Lu Yi was completely engulfed by thunder light, his figure no longer visible. Indeed fearsome, this heavenly tribulation, even I sensed some danger from it. Another immortal monarch from the Yu family spoke. This immortal monarch had managed to break through by comprehending the Tao from the previous Tao tide caused by Lu Yi. Now, having just reached the immortal monarch realm, his realm was not yet stable, and his strength was not considered strong among immortal monarchs. But even so, he was still a formidable practitioner at the level of an immortal monarch. That even he could feel the threat of the heavenly tribulation was enough to know how terrifying that heavenly thunder was. Worthy of Lu Yi. All the immortal monarchs nodded in agreement to this statement. All right, get ready, the Tao tide should appear very soon. Many Yu family practitioners sat down cross-legged, waiting for the Tao tide to descend. At this moment within the heavenly tribulation, Lu Yi's body, forged by Tao treasure and chaos treasure, still felt a slight sting. Of course, it was just a bit of stinging. With the strength of his physical body now, even such heavenly tribulation couldn't really pose any threat to him. Lu Yi, bathed in heavenly tribulation, began to comprehend the Tao. Before long, surging Tao light emerged from the void, where virtual shadows of true dragons roaring, phoenixes soaring, and green lotuses blooming appeared one after another. This was the materialization of the Tao. As the Tao tide appeared, it quickly passed through all the platforms, and the Yu family practitioners were the first to detect this phenomenon. It's here. The eyes of each Yu family practitioner sparkled as they began to comprehend the Tao light and the Tao. This group included the Yu family ancestor, Yu Cheng. The entire vacuum became silent. Only the flickering light of heavenly thunder was visible, with brilliant spiritual energy radiating towards all directions, as if a constant star had exploded. As time flowed by, when the heavenly thunder dissipated, the tide of Tao had not yet ceased. Lu Yi was the first to recover. He looked around. All the platforms were filled with cultivators still comprehending the Tao. In the closest area, Lu Yi saw the Yu family ancestor, Yu Cheng, and other powerful figures. This area was occupied by strong practitioners of the immortal monarch level or even stronger, too close to the area where Lu Yi was crossing tribulation, and those not strong enough could even get injured. Moving back, Lu Yi saw Yu Hangguang, Yu Yuanwu, peak master of Ling Luo and Liu Ningxuang, along with various geniuses of the Yu family. Watching Liu Ningxuang and the others still immersed in comprehension, Lu Yi smiled slightly. He didn't disturb anyone else and transformed into a streak of light, returning to his room on Jade Star first, to observe the changes in his own body. At the profound immortal realm, the seed of the small world within himself had already taken the shape of a small world embryo, and when Lu Yi broke through to the golden immortal realm, the embryonic form of the small world expanded continuously, transforming into an inner world. Because Lu Yi had been adding Taoist energy to the small world during his cultivation breakthrough, and even chaos qi later on. At this moment, Lu Yi's inner world was filled with a large amount of Taoist energy, with strands of chaos qi circulating within it. The collision of Taoist energy and chaos qi was like the beginning of the universe, as if a new cosmos was being born from the chaos. Feeling his own inner world, Lu Yi was somewhat thrilled. Now that the small world within his body had fully transformed into an inner world, perhaps one day, a cosmos could indeed be born inside his body. He also wondered whether living beings could be born within the inner world. Lu Yi was somewhat curious, but for now, the inner world was filled with Taoist energy and chaos qi, with the latter being extremely turbulent, making it difficult even for a golden immortal to survive inside. As for an immortal monarch, Lu Yi wouldn't be foolish enough to allow an immortal monarch into his inner world, letting them see his chaos qi and Taoist energy. He shook his head and stopped dwelling on the thought. Apart from the changes within his body, Taoist energy and chaos qi within the inner world began to slowly nourish Lu Yi's physical body and spiritual power. He could feel his immortal body, which was already incredibly strong, becoming ever stronger as if there was no limit. and his spirit was exceptionally lively. His divine sense could probably cover an entire constant star system now. This kind of spiritual power was far beyond what a practitioner of the golden immortal level could compare to. Not only that, but after passing through the inner world, Lu Yi's immortal spirit Qi became even more refined, so much so that if Lu Yi wished, he could combine the Taoist energy and the immortal spirit Qi to unleash even more terrifying power. When he was in the profound immortal realm, Lu Yi could already manipulate the power of Tao. Now, his control over the power of Tao had deepened, allowing him to exert even more force. Should he fully activate the power of Tao, the strength he could unleash would greatly increase. For Lu Yi, this was a trump card on a par with the Heavenly Heart technique and Yin Yang Tao seal. After sensing the changes within himself, Lu Yi was very satisfied. And now that the task of breaking through was complete and the Heart of Chaos was in his possession, Lu Yi wasn't in a hurry to use it. Instead, he planned to utilize it after returning to Tiananmen. Afterward, Lu Yi continued to visit the scripture pavilion to comprehend immortal scripture and techniques, waiting for the others to finish their enlightenment. It was only after a few years that the Yu family practitioners on the platform began to emerge from their state of comprehension one by one. Chapter 740, 348 Anomalies of Red Star 2. These cultivators were all wildly overjoyed, clearly having made immense gains. And Ling Luo, Peak Master, and others soon came to one after another, and the group returned home. Liu Ningxuang and her 3 companions flew into the courtyard with Ling Luo, Peak Master, their expressions filled with surprise and delight. "Sister, how did it go? Did you find any treasures?" Lu Yi saw Liu Ningxuang and her party, asking with a light laugh. Liu Ningxuang replied with a shallow smile, "We made enormous gains." "Heh heh, after all, with a Tao tide of such scale, how could there be no gains?" Donggong Mingyue was particularly proud. "But we haven't fully digested our gains yet. We will probably need to close ourselves for cultivation for a long time once we get back." Jian Ruyu and Yunzai both nodded slightly. Looking at Lu Yi, Ling Luo, Peak Master, said, "Have you been waiting for us for a long time?" "Not too long, just a few years." For those who had become immortals, indeed a few years was merely the blink of an eye. However, during these years, Lu Yi had mastered several golden immortal skills and had gained insights into some immortal scriptures. One could say his time was spent very fruitfully. "Shall we prepare to head back?" asked Ling Luo, Peak Master. Lu Yi smiled and said, "Yes, indeed it's time to return. I'll go check on Big Brother and Yu Yuanwu and call them over." Yu Lingluo nodded slightly and walked out of the courtyard. Soon after, Ling Luo, Peak Master, came flying over with Yu Hangguang and Yu Yuanwu. Flying with them were Yu Xin and the Yu family matriarch. "Year, I heard you're going back," Yu Xin said with a light smile. Lu Yi nodded. "Yes, I have been away from Tiananmen for some time now, and I'm somewhat worried." Yu Xin nodded slightly. "If that's the case, then go ahead. The old ancestor is still in seclusion. I'm afraid he can't come to send you off." "You're too polite, Uncle Yu. Perhaps when the old ancestor leaves seclusion, he might make a breakthrough to Immortal King," Lu Yi said with a grin. In fact, based on the situation with Yu Cheng that Lu Yi had seen a few days ago, the probability of a breakthrough after this period of seclusion was indeed not small. Lu Yi was also quite expectant. Afterward, Lu Yi and several others boarded the Red Sun boat under the watchful eyes of Yu Xin and the Yu family matriarch, leaving Jade Star. After returning to Tiananmen, Lu Yi announced that he would be closing himself for cultivation for a while. He deduced the layout of the Great Array, and having set the formation in place, began to absorb the Heart of Chaos. It was a crystal composed entirely of Chaos Qi, much more powerful than any Chaos treasure Lu Yi had previously obtained. As Lu Yi absorbed it, the Heart of Chaos turned into strands of Chaos Qi, integrating into his body. This Chaos Qi tempered Lu Yi's immortal body, causing it to surge in strength once more as Chaos Tao patterns integrated into every region within Lu Yi's body. Most of the Chaos Qi merged into Lu Yi's immortal body, while the remaining streams were controlled by him to enter his inner world, continuously shaping it. With the absorption of one Heart of Chaos after another, Lu Yi's aura became deeper and more condensed. When 10 Hearts of Chaos were completely absorbed, Lu Yi slowly opened his eyes, which swirled with strands of Chaos Qi, seemingly able to peer through all things in the world. He exhaled a breath of turbid air and smiled slightly. The heart of chaos was indeed a chaos treasure. The progress was tremendous. With his current strength, he could now face immortal monarchs with ease, and using his trump cards, he should be able to fight even those in the immortal monarch realm, right? Lu Yi was in a very joyful mood. He left the cave mansion, played with Little Star for a while, and then decided to find his sister and others to celebrate and test the strength of his physical body now. Just then a blaze of firelight appeared from afar, coming to the outside of the cave mansion, and transformed into a figure. It was the princess of the Red Clan whom Lu Yi had previously saved, Red Butterfly. When Red Butterfly first started, she was only in the Mahayana realm, but she had been cultivating in the White Cloud Immortal sect over the years. She had excellent innate talent for cultivation, frequently heard Lu Yi discussing the Tao, and learned powerful immortal scriptures. Her cultivation base had now become much stronger than before, reaching the true immortal realm. Even Jiang Fan and others could not compare to such a pace of cultivation. "My lord," Red Butterfly respectfully greeted Lu Yi as soon as she saw him outside the cave mansion. Lu Yi glanced at Red Butterfly and asked with a light smile, "What's the matter? You seem restless. Is there something going on?" "Yes, master. My father has sent news that an anomaly has occurred at our ancestor star," Red Butterfly began. Lu Yi was taken aback and raised an eyebrow. He had a very strong impression of the Red Clan's ancestor star, Red Star. After all, every member of the Red Clan was a genius of the fire element. The weakest among them possessed an innate fire spirit body, and Red Butterfly back in the day even had the talent of an immortal body. If their cultivation method hadn't been so weak, with their talents, they could have given birth to many immortals in a short time, and even powerful beings such as golden immortals or stronger. Moreover, when Lu Yi had visited the Red Clan's ancestor hall on the Red Star, he always felt something was off, but he couldn't pinpoint the anomaly, nor could he detect anything peculiar. Years had passed since then, and Lu Yi hadn't paid much attention to this matter. To his surprise, Red Butterfly was now reporting an anomaly at the Red Clan's homeland. Over the years, although Red Butterfly had always been cultivating and developing at Tiananmen, because the Red Clan followed Lu Yi, they often sent their geniuses to train at Tiananmen. At the same time, those of the Red Clan with completed training would return to the ancestor star. There was constant exchange between the two planets. It's just because the region where Red Star was located was desolate, travel was not very convenient, hence the exchanges weren't too frequent. Lu Yi frowned as he looked at Red Butterfly and asked, "Did he mention what kind of anomaly?" "Yes, my father mentioned that inside the ancestor hall, there seems to be a spatial distortion in a certain area, as if there is a small world there, and that small world seems to be slowly opening up," Red Butterfly explained, nodding. Lu Yi was startled. "The area of your ancestor hall." According to Lu Yi's previous understanding of the Red Clan, the ancestors of the Red Clan had been born in and never left the area where the ancestor hall was located. The Red Clan should have never discovered any other space in that area. Unexpectedly, it was starting to appear bit by bit at this time. Lu Yi fell into deep thought. The anomaly he sensed from the Red Clan's ancestor hall before, could it be related to that small space? Lu Yi had no clue. "Yes, master, my father is somewhat worried. He doesn't know what that space actually contains, so he notified me, hoping I could return to handle it," Red Butterfly affirmed with a nod. She looked at Lu Yi somewhat anxiously. "Master, may I go back for a while?" Lu Yi came back to his senses and replied with a light laugh, "Of course, there's no problem at all." Red Butterfly immediately sighed in relief and then smiled. "Thank you, master." Red Butterfly held profound respect for Lu Yi. After all, it was he who had initially saved her and her people when they were captured, and later brought them back to the ancestor star, offering protection to their world. Now, Red Butterfly often traveled to the commercial planets and was fully aware of the darkness in the universe. There were too many interstellar pirates in the Sea of Stars. With their original strength, if they had encountered other interstellar pirates, they would have faced the same fate of enslavement. But Lu Yi changed the fate of their clan. If Lu Yi was unwilling to let her go back, Red Butterfly truly didn't know what to do. Fortunately, the master was as understanding as always. Red Butterfly was immensely grateful in her heart. At that moment Lu Yi's voice rang out, "I am also quite curious about that small world. I'll go with you." Red Butterfly was taken aback, not quite processing his words, and looked at Lu Yi. "You wish to go with me, master?" Red Butterfly asked in astonishment. Lu Yi nodded and said with a light smile, "What, you don't want me to?" Red Butterfly quickly shook her head. "Of course not, I would be more than happy if the master would accompany me." After all, Red Butterfly was well aware of the master's strength. If there really was a serious problem that she couldn't handle, the master could certainly resolve it. Red Butterfly was utterly convinced of Lu Yi's abilities. "As long as it's all right with you, when shall we depart?" Lu Yi inquired. Red Butterfly replied nervously, "The sooner the better. I'm a bit worried." Lu Yi nodded, understanding. "Okay, I'll go call my senior sister and the others, and then we'll set off." Chapter 741-349, Fire Origin. Chapter 741-349, Fire Origin. Lu Yi called upon Liu Ningxuang and 3 others. After explaining the situation, all 4 were surprised. The ancestral lands of the Red Butterfly have encountered a problem with a spatial anomaly. Could there really be a small world? Jian Ruyu exclaimed in surprise. Lu Yi nodded. "Yes, when I was at the territory of the Red Clan, I felt something unusual. It might indeed be possible for such things to exist." "Then we should go take a look. The Red Clan has such great innate talents. If there are secrets in the land where they originated, there should certainly be some extraordinary things there," Liu Ningxuang pondered and said. "I was thinking the same thing, let's go." Lu Yi took Liu Ningxuang and the other 3 along with Red Butterfly, boarding the Red Sun boat. The Red Sun boat turned into a streak of light and flew through the star gate in the vacuum, heading toward the direction of the Red Star. With smooth sailing, the Red Sun boat quickly arrived in a desolate area, and after traveling some distance, finally reached the Red Star. As they arrived above the Red Star, hovering over the magma sea filled with molten rock, the Red King and elders of the Red Clan were already waiting for Lu Yi. Seeing the Red Sun boat, they all came forward to greet him. At this moment, the Red King had already reached the realm of heavenly Immortal, and beside him, there were 2 other Immortals. Ever since the Red Clan established contact with Tiananmen, Lu Yi had given them the fire-based Immortal scripture, and with their astonishing talents and powerful cultivation techniques, their cultivation bases naturally enhanced rapidly. Additionally, Lu Yi was personally mentoring them, and had even transplanted several fire-element immortal treasures on the Red Star. As these immortal treasures gradually grew and began to release immortal spirit qi and dense spiritual energy, the concentration of spiritual energy in the Red Clan had increased significantly compared to before. Because of this, the strong among the Red Clan repeatedly made breakthroughs. "My lord, thank you for coming here," the Red King said respectfully. Lu Yi smiled faintly. "Since you follow me, whenever there are problems you can't solve, I naturally will step forward to attend to them." The Red King expressed his gratitude. "Thank you, my lord. Now, let's talk about the details of the situation." "Yes, my lord. Let's walk and talk. I'll take you to the scene at our clan's land." The Red King led Lu Yi toward the area under the separated magma sea. This is what happened. A few years ago, the spiritual energy concentration in our clan's territory suddenly increased. At first, we thought it was because the immortal treasures you gave us were growing faster. But later, as the increase in the concentration of spiritual energy became faster and even somewhat abnormal, we realized something was wrong. Then, we discovered signs of spatial distortion within our land. However, the power of the spatial distortion was extremely violent, and I couldn't investigate the situation inside. I could only inform Red Butterfly and hoped she could come to take a look, said the Red King, explaining the issue. The group passed through the pathway split by the magma sea and arrived in front of a palace complex made of red crystals. Lu Yi's pupils slightly constricted as a shocked expression emerged on his face. The last time he visited the Red Star, Lu Yi had sensed a faint aroma of the fire origin. But this time, upon arriving at the land of the Red Clan, he found the scent of the fire origin to be much stronger than before. How is this possible? Such a dense fire origin didn't seem likely to form naturally. Lu Yi found it hard to believe. Generally speaking, even immortal venerables might not be able to gather such a dense origin power. His expression stiffened as he gazed at the distant palace complex, with streaks of Tao patterns appearing in his eyes. Between flickers of Tao light, he saw the essence of the entire palace complex. Soon, Lu Yi detected the source of the fire origin. It was in a corner of the palace complex, where the origin power was slowly leaking out, gradually spreading within the complex. Lu Yi was even more astonished. Last time, he also used the Heavenly Tao Eye to observe this palace complex, but he couldn't confirm the source of the fire origin within. Unexpectedly, he could pinpoint the source this time. Lu Yi realized this was not because his cultivation base had improved, but because there was an issue in the area where the fire origin originally existed. Narrowing his eyes, Lu Yi flew toward the direction of the fire origin. Seeing Lu Yi directly flying over, the Red King and the strong individuals of the Red Clan were all stunned and a bit confused. They quickly followed him. The Red King, unable to hide his amazement, said, "My lord, how did you know that the space distortion was here?" Red Butterfly said quite proudly, "Father, my lord has mastered the space law at the perfection realm. If there was something abnormal in space, how could it possibly escape my lord's eyes?" SSS. Upon hearing this, both the Red King and the strong individuals of the Red Clan took a sharp breath. They were no longer the indigenous people of the Red Star from before. Through interactions with the cosmos, they naturally understood how powerful it was to have mastered the perfect law. Not to mention that this law was the space law. The Red King and the strong individuals of the Red Clan were both excited and thrilled. Since the Lord had mastered such a powerful space law, an anomaly like this should be easy for him to handle right. As this space anomaly had suddenly appeared inside their clan's land, they were initially even unable to detect it, and both the Red King and the strong individuals of the Red Clan were somewhat concerned. Chapter 742, 349 Fire Origin 2. Chapter 742, -349 Fire Origin /2. However, they soon realized Lu Yi's expression was extremely grave, which made the strong members of the Red Clan gulp with apprehension. The Red King and a group of Red Clan strong members looked at each other in dismay, no one speaking. It wasn't long before they arrived at a very ordinary-looking palace on the edge of the palace complex. The Red King said, "This was originally a palace of an elder of the Yan Yue. When the spatial distortion was discovered, the elder moved out." With that, the Red King pointed to a middle-aged man on one side, who was in the Tribulation Crossing realm. The middle-aged man was called Yan Yue. Yan Yue nodded respectfully to Lu Yi and explained, "That area of spatial distortion is located in a side room on the first floor, which I seldom use and hardly ever enter. But later, when I found the spiritual energy in this area to be particularly dense, I grew curious and went to have a look. That's when I discovered the abnormal spatial distortion. My lord, it's over here." With that, Yan Yue led Lu Yi to a room at the corner. Following behind, Lu Yi quickly saw that Yan Yue had opened the door, revealing a room that looked very ordinary. But in the center of the room, space was slightly distorted, a phenomenon visible to the naked eye, though it seemed to pose no harm. In Lu Yi's eyes, however, the spatial lines in that area were extremely twisted. The twist to such a degree would require an extraordinarily powerful and fearsome force. At this moment, the distorted space was expanding as if another world was continuously connecting to this one. Besides, the fire origin was drifting out from the space between the distortions. After arriving in this room, Lu Yi felt the fire origin becoming overwhelmingly dense. If he were to comprehend here, even he would receive no small improvement, and perhaps he would master the origin power more quickly. If that were true, his strength would rise once again. However, Lu Yi's heart was heavy. After all, origin power was a force that only immortal kings and immortal emperors could master. The escape of origin power from the distorted space was highly unusual. The last time Lu Yi helped the Bolo's clan find their missing people, he already encountered a GU cultivator at the immortal monarch level, so he had become more cautious. What if he carelessly recognized a great being at the immortal king or even the immortal emperor level? Wouldn't he be doomed? However, this spatial distortion indicated that the other small world was inching closer to reality, and in the end, a passageway would certainly appear. If left unattended, should really powerful beings from the immortal king or even the immortal emperor level emerge, the situation would likewise be extremely dire. After all, whether there are still living immortal kings and immortal emperors in the universe is uncertain, and if a malevolent immortal king or immortal emperor were to appear, the entire sky-falling star domain would be plunged into danger. They might not even be able to withstand it. Leaving it unattended was definitely not an option. That was precisely why Lu Yi was hesitant and his expression clouded. Seeing Lu Yi's expression so grave, The four people who knew him best, Liu Ningxuang and her companions, found it somewhat unbelievable. They had known Lu Yi for many years, acquaintances turned companions, and it had been so long since they had ever seen Lu Yi with such a serious expression. Liu Ningxuang could not help but ask, "Junior brother, what's wrong? Is there a problem?" The Red King and Red Butterfly, among others, were even more anxious. Lu Yi exhaled a troubled breath and nodded. The situation is indeed somewhat troublesome. The strong members of the Red Clan were shocked, and the Red King voiced his worries. "My lord, this spatial distortion, can't you handle it either?" Lu Yi pondered for a moment, then said, "Merely the distorted space I can smooth over, but what lies behind this space might be something extraordinary." Jian Ruyu asked, somewhat curious, "What thing that makes you so grave?" "An immortal king or perhaps an immortal emperor," Lu Yi calmly said. The atmosphere suddenly quieted down, and everyone stood still as if they had turned to statues. Not to mention Jian Ruyu and the others. Even the Red Clan, who had just communicated with the universe, knew that neither immortal kings nor immortal emperors existed anymore, and the strongest in the entire universe were only at the immortal venerable level now. And in between such unremarkable space distortions, there existed an immortal king or immortal emperor. Who could have imagined this? In a moment of silence, Liu Ningxuang and the others regained their composure. Yunzai looked stunned and exclaimed, "Immortal king and immortal emperor. I thought there were no immortal kings and immortal emperors left in the universe." Lu Yi chuckled and said, "It's only a possibility, I'm not certain either." On further thought, Lu Yi realized he might be taking things too seriously. Although immortal kings and emperors possess the power of fire origin, the origin power is not necessarily something only a cultivator can control. If Tao treasures and chaos treasures exist, naturally, there could also be heavenly materials and earthly treasures that contain the power of fire origin. Perhaps what lay within that space was such a treasure, or of course, it could also be the tomb of an immortal king or emperor. Even cultivators who have not yet become immortals would set up great arrays to warp space, creating hidden resting places in the world, not to mention such strong beings like immortal kings and emperors, who might create a small world for their final resting place. This would be entirely normal. It has been countless years since an immortal king or emperor appeared in the universe. The possibility of a living immortal king or emperor is far less than that of a deceased immortal king or emperor. Whether this place is a small world with heavenly materials and earthly treasures containing fire origin, or the tomb of a fire element immortal king or emperor, it represents a great opportunity for Lu Yi. After all, even ordinary cultivators would bury themselves with some of their treasures, and immortal kings and emperors are likely no exception. If there really are cultivation treasures used by immortal kings and emperors, or the cultivation techniques and immortal techniques they mastered inside, then that would be very useful for Lu Yi. Thinking this, Lu Yi actually felt a bit excited. However, for the sake of safety, Lu Yi wouldn't rashly interfere with the spatial passage to open it prematurely. Similarly, he planned to evacuate the Red Clan's people first, for even if it were a tomb of an immortal king or emperor, considering the Red Clan's strength, if something were to happen upon opening the passage, likely no one but Red Butterfly would survive. Be cautious. Lu Yi also intended to use Fate's skill to divine the situation and confirm whether it was really safe. While Lu Yi was thinking, both the Red Clan and Liu Ningxuang's party were wearing incredibly strange expressions, a mix of shock and concern. Donggong Mingyue didn't dare to make much noise, gazing nervously at the distorted area and said, "Senior brother, don't scare your cute junior sister. Could there really be immortal kings and emperors?" Lu Yi looked at Donggong Mingyue with a hint of amusement and said, "It's just a slight possibility. It's very unlikely that immortal kings and emperors exist." Hearing this, Liu Ningxuang and the other three breathed a sigh of relief. The faces of the Red King and others, which were pale before, began to regain some color. After all, this was their ancestral land. They had existed here for so many years. If immortal kings and emperors really existed, what would happen to their land? The best case would be if they didn't exist. At that moment, Lu Yi's voice rang out again. "However, just to be on the safe side, I hope you'll evacuate your ancestral land first." The hearts of the Red King and his people, which had just settled, lurched again, their faces turning as pale as snow, filled with bitterness. Even Liu Ningxuang and her party looked stiff. You say there are no immortal kings and emperors, Donggong Mingyue said in disbelief. If there were no immortal kings and emperors, why would her senior brother be so cautious? Seeing their peculiar expressions, Lu Yi chuckled and said, "It's just to be on the safe side. If there's really no issue, you can still come back and live here." Lu Yi had already made plans to use the fate skill to divine the situation later. If there was no danger, that would be great, but if there was significant danger, he would have to inform the Yu family to deal with it. But honestly speaking, given the power that relates to the origin, if there really is great danger, it's a big question whether the Yu family could handle it or not. Chapter 743-350, Heir of Fate, Pale Red Phantom. Chapter 743-350, Heir of Fate, Pale Red Phantom. The Red King and a group of powerful members of the Red Clan fell silent for a moment before nodding in agreement. "Since our sovereign has said so, then let's first take our clansmen and leave this place," the Red King stated. Lu Yi nodded, then seemed to recall something and added, "You can take the clansmen to the Red Sun boat, and if any danger arises, we can evacuate at a moment's notice." The crowd fell silent once more. The fact that Lu Yi had even planned an evacuation route showed just how seriously he took the situation. "Red Butterfly, take your clansmen to the Red Sun boat," he instructed. "Yes, my sovereign," Red Butterfly acknowledged with a nod, and then led the Red King and the rest away. Liu Ningxuang and the three others stood by Lu Yi, exchanging looks of uncertainty. Liu Ningxuang's finely arched eyebrows furrowed as she asked, "Junior brother, what exactly is in there that has you this worried?" Lu Yi gazed at the twisting space and slowly replied, "I've sensed the aura of the fire origin from within." "Origin?" Jian Ruyu exclaimed. The three others also wore expressions of shock. They naturally knew what the power of an origin was. Now they understood why Lu Yi was taking such precautions. Donggong Mingyue's eyes glittered with anticipation. Maybe there's an immortal king's heritage inside. If so, couldn't we obtain the immortal king's heritage? Yunzai spoke softly. It could also be a living immortal king. Lu Yi chuckled. "Don't worry too much, come, let's use the yin-yang Tao seal. I'm planning to use the fate skill to see just how dangerous it is. If it isn't dangerous, then this might be a huge opportunity." All four nodded slightly. Subsequently, they used the yin-yang Tao seal, which turned into flowing light, forming yin-yang patterns at the center of Lu Yi's forehead. Lu Yi took a deep breath and used the heavenly heart technique again. This time, Lu Yi utilized almost all his strength as the heavenly heart technique leveraged a tremendous amount of the perfect law. At this moment, Lu Yi's aura soared step by step. From just having broken through to the golden immortal realm, he advanced to the peak of the golden immortal realm, even surpassing the realm of the Bolos clan's three elders who had spent many years at that peak. The powerful aura that Lu Yi released formed a terrifying field of energy. The Red Clan members, yet to fully depart, felt an overwhelming pressure descend upon them as if the sky were falling, causing a heavy sensation in their chests. The immortals of the Red Clan, such as the Red King, felt this even more acutely, looking toward the direction of the aura in terror, their faces pale as sheets. Is that truly the power of our sovereign? It's so dreadful." For the first time, the Red King felt such mighty power and was inwardly subdued. Red Butterfly knew somewhat of Lu Yi's strength and now wore a slightly proud and triumphant expression. "That's right, father. Our sovereign is very powerful. Even the most formidable Yu family of the Sky Falling Star domain holds him in high regard." "So it is worthy of being our sovereign," the Red King murmured in admiration, nodding. At that moment, his expression grew more anxious. "Our sovereign has had to employ such formidable power. It seems that the space anomaly is indeed serious." The heavenly immortals of the Red Clan beside him also showed concern. "King, if our sovereign can't handle this situation, we may have to consider relocating our entire clan," one of them suggested. The surrounding Red Clan elders fell silent in agreement. This was the home planet where the Red Clan had been born and thrived. Without it, lost in the vast universe, they would no longer have a homeland. The Red King also fell silent, then after a while he slowly said, "Let us hope the sovereign can quell this space anomaly. Otherwise, we will have no choice but to leave. The well-being of our people is the most important thing. Even without an ancestor star, as long as we are together, the Red Clan will continue to endure." "Father speaks true. When the time comes, I will plead with our sovereign to allow the Red Clan to relocate to Tiananmen. Tiananmen has an excellent environment that our people will surely love, Red Butterfly agreed with a nod. As for whether the sovereign would accept her plea, Red Butterfly was very confident. After all, the Red clan had high potential, and if they stayed in Tiananmen, it would be a great help to the sovereign. Upon hearing Red Butterfly's words, the Red King and the others brightened up and nodded in unison. The talented individuals of the Red clan would go to Tiananmen for further development. The Red clan naturally understood Tiananmen well. If they could truly relocate to Tiananmen, it would undoubtedly be an excellent decision. Let's go, we should board the Red Sun boat now. Staying here might affect the sovereign, the Red King advised. After fully unleashing his power, Lu Yi took a deep breath. Mysterious, complex Tao patterns emerged in his eyes, increasing in number, densely packed, layered upon one another, incredibly intricate. The power of Tao revolved around Lu Yi, transforming into wisps of green smoke, making him appear as ethereal as an immortal. Within Lu Yi's vision were various clear Tao patterns, with faint lines and lines of space fluttering and intertwining. He took another deep breath, exerting his fate skill to its fullest. With the fate skill reaching the limit realm, combined with his own perfect level destiny law, Lu Yi had an extraordinary understanding of destiny. His eyes glinted with Tao light, observing the space anomaly as he intertwined his own fate line with it. He sought to determine whether entering this space anomaly would present any danger. Soon, a series of scenes flashed through Lu Yi's mind. The visions were intermittent, featuring seas of endless flames, towers constructed of red crystals amidst the flames, a pale red shadow enveloped in mysterious Tao light and origin aura, as well as a golden red ring floating beside the shadow. Chapter 744-350, Heir of Destiny, Pale Red Phantom 2. Chapter 744-350, Heir of Destiny, Pale Red Phantom /2. Just then, the virtual shadow raised its head, eyes fixating directly on Lu Yi. It was a handsome young man, almost identical to the members of the Red Clan. Between his brows seemed to contain a sense of majesty, as if he were a sovereign seated upon a throne. However, at this moment, a look of shock surfaced on the imposing face of the young man as he murmured softly, "Destiny? No, that's not right." Afterwards, the young man seemed to understand something and chuckled lightly. "The inheritor of fate, is Jiyu still around?" The seemingly casual voice of the young man contained endless Taoyuan, which, if a fire element cultivator were to commune with him, would be enough to make that cultivator fall into sudden enlightenment. Lu Yi was astonished to his core. An immortal king, a fire element immortal king. No, there seems to be something off about the state of this immortal king. He has no physical body. Is it a soul body? And while flames of origin power circulated around him, his aura was not strong. Instead, the golden red halo floating beside him looked very tranquil, yet it contained the power to destroy heaven and earth. Lu Yi was very familiar with this kind of power. It was the aura of an acquired spirit treasure. That golden red halo must be an acquired spirit treasure. One should know that even immortal venerable level beings might not possess many acquired spirit treasures, and if the news of an acquired spirit treasure here were to spread, the immortal venerables of all surrounding star domains would probably go mad. Of course, to Lu Yi, his heart remained calm, for he already possessed several acquired spirit treasures. The focus of Lu Yi's attention was not on the quality of the treasure. He watched thoughtfully as the golden red halo hovered next to the faint red virtual shadow. This virtual shadow seemed to exist only by relying on this acquired spirit treasure. Could it be the remaining soul of an immortal king? Lu Yi felt that this was unlikely. For an immortal king, even if only the soul remained, reconstructing a physical body would not be difficult. Moreover, the strength of an immortal king's soul could not be so weak. Lu Yi did not reply. The scene continued to shift, and soon, he saw several swaying red immortal lotuses amidst the sea of fire. The immortal lotuses exuded an extremely rich immortal spirit qi, and even strands of origin power were escaping. These were immortal lotuses of immortal king level. The scene flickered, and swiftly, Lu Yi felt a tremendous consumption of his own immortal spirit qi, struggling to maintain the fate skill, so he ceased his efforts. As Lu Yi stopped, his aura plummeted rapidly, and then the yin-yang Tao seal in the center of his forehead flickered with light, and Liu Ningxuang and the other three appeared. Their faces, too, were somewhat pale. Donggong Mingyue looked towards Lu Yi and asked, "Senior brother, how is it? Did you see any fate? Lu Yi chuckled lightly. There's no danger, instead, there are quite a few opportunities. Hearing this, even the ever-composed Liu Ningxuang couldn't help but brighten her eyes. Many opportunities. Could they be at the level of an immortal king? Jian Ruyu's eyes were lit up with excitement. Lu Yi nodded slightly. The breaths of Liu Ningxuang and the others grew heavier, their faces filled with eagerness. Senior brother, let's quickly open this space, shall we? Let's go in now. Donggong Mingyue exclaimed, as if she couldn't wait to rush into this land of opportunities. Seeing Donggong Mingyue's excited manner, Lu Yi couldn't help but roll his eyes. How old are you to be so impetuous? We need to prepare first. Lu Yi and his companions were all greatly depleted in strength, and even if they wanted to open this space anomaly, they would need to recover their powers to their best condition. Actually, Lu Yi wasn't too interested in the opportunities within, as no matter it was immortal treasures or cultivation treasures, he could always get them by completing tasks and going through dungeons. What made Lu Yi curious was the virtual shadow that resembled the Red Clan. Perhaps the Red Clan was not as simple as they appeared. After all, their natural talent was extraordinary. Nearly everyone among them was a fire spirit body, something not even the Yu family could claim. Long before now, Lu Yi had suspected there was something problematic with the Red Clan. Now it seemed there was certainly a connection between the Red Clan and the Immortal King's virtual shadow within the Sea of Fire. What Lu Yi couldn't understand was, if they were the race of immortal kings, why, according to what Red Butterfly and the Red King said, had not a single immortal appeared among the Red Clan since its inception until Red Butterfly was captured. During this period, there must have been things that even Lu Yi couldn't comprehend. Apart from this, what Lu Yi was most concerned about were the words previously spoken by that phantom. Jehu. That phantom had clearly had a significant connection with the Immortal King, and that fellow actually knew about Jiyu. Moreover, he even asked if Jiyu still existed. This Fire Immortal King might have quite a substantial intersection with Jiyu, perhaps not just this Immortal King. If he asked about Jiyu first thing, it indicated that in the cosmos at that time, Jiyu was probably a well-known existence even to immortals. Given that, the other immortal kings and immortal emperors would likely also be aware of Jiyu's existence. At this thought, Lu Yi's gaze flickered. The immortal kings and immortal emperors had been missing for countless years. Could it be related to Jiyu? This was the question Lu Yi most wanted to know. After all, from what little Lu Yi had gathered about Jiyu, it was apparent that Jiyu was immensely powerful. If an accident occurred in the Jiyu battlefield and Jiyu entered the universe, it would probably be a huge disaster, and no one would be spared. There is now apparently a fierce entity in Jiyu that has set its sights on him. If Jiyu really did enter the universe, given his current rate of absorption of Tao treasures and Chaos treasures, there would likely be more than one entity targeting him by then. Lu Yi wanted to know just how powerful Jiyu really was and how to deal with it. If the disappearance of the immortal kings and immortal emperors was indeed related to Jiyu, could it be that they were dead? If the immortal kings and immortal emperors were still alive, where were they now? Currently, this was the only channel through which Lu Yi could learn about the situation, and he wanted to seize it. According to the feedback from the Fate skill, there was no danger in entering that sea of flames. The phantom posed no threat either, harboring no malice towards him in terms of destiny. That was also why Lu Yi wanted to go and communicate with it. All right, let's recover first, Donggong Mingyue said with a pitiful glance at Lu Yi after he spoke, then sat down on the side and began to recuperate. Liu Ningxuang and the others naturally began to recover as well. Like them, Lu Yi sat cross-legged on the ground, restoring his own power. Lu Yi's foundation was extremely strong now, so naturally, his recovery speed was also very fast. Before long, Lu Yi had completely regained his strength. He glanced at Liu Ningxuang and the others, who were still recuperating, and did not disturb them. It took quite a while before Liu Ningxuang and the others were fully restored. Their first reaction was to look towards Lu Yi. Lu Yi, shall we start? Yunzai asked. Lu Yi nodded slightly. You all go out so you won't get affected by what comes next. Okay. Liu Ningxuang and the others nodded and left the room. Lu Yi took a deep breath and began using the space law to comb through the spatial threads at the location of the spatial anomaly. Since the small world was already gravitating towards the real universe, What Lu Yi needed to do was simply to go with the flow. He didn't need excessive power, but rather a fine control to prevent the integration of the small world into the real universe from causing too much disturbance, collapsing space, and creating a massive space storm. If that really happened, then the entire red star would likely be swallowed by the space storm. In fact, if Lu Yi didn't intervene, the natural collision of the small world with the real universe would definitely create a space storm. It was just uncertain how large it would be. If the scale was small, it might only destroy this palace complex. If it was large, then the red star would definitely be obliterated, and if even larger, maybe the entire red star system would be devoured by the space storm. However, Lu Yi, who mastered the perfect level of space law, had extremely strong control over space. Combing through spatial threads to allow a gentle contact between the small world and the real universe was not too difficult for him. It was just a bit troublesome and required delicate manipulation. Nonetheless, Lu Yi was willing to undertake such operations. As Lu Yi started to comb through the spatial threads, the distortion in space grew more significant, and even a small space hole began to appear. Chapter 745, 351, Atop the Tower in the Small World. Chapter 745-351, Atop the Tower in the Small World. Flames gushed from the space hole, and the high heat melted the ground. It was known that the Palace of the Red Crystal was located at the bottom of the magma. The temperature here was already extremely high, suitable only for the bodies of the Red Clan. Otherwise, even cultivators at the Golden Core or even the nascent Soul Realm would hardly withstand such heat. Even under such high temperatures, the Red Palace still stood unyielding, which suggested its high heat resistance. But now, these red flames had easily melted the ground, indicating an unimaginably high temperature. Waves of heat surged, and soon the walls and roof of the entire room began to melt bit by bit. Even Liu Ningxuang and the others outside the room felt the extreme heat and could not help but frown. However, the high temperature did not last very long and soon began to subside. At the newly opened space hole, the flames gradually calmed down, revealing only a dim red hue. In Lu Yi's eyes, however, he could clearly see strands of flame origin energy diffusing out from the hole, much faster than the mere distortion of the space before. The gate between the small world and the real world had opened. Though the gate was not yet large, a connection had already been made. Lu Yi remained calm, continuing to control the space lines. This initial stage of space gate formation was the most susceptible to spatial oscillations, potentially forming space storms. Around the hole, strands of twisted ripples spread out in all directions. Under Lu Yi's control, these spatial ripples quickly subsided, and the newly formed space gate expanded bit by bit. After a long time, when Lu Yi was feeling somewhat tired, the space gate finally reached about the height of a person. It was a round space gate floating in the air, leading to a world of red inside, with high-temperature waves hitting the face. Cultivators below the divinity transformation might find it completely inaccessible. Lu Yi exhaled lightly and composed himself, looking at the space gate with a gleam in his eyes. He looked towards the melted room door and said, "You can come in now, the space gate is stable." Liu Ningxuang and the others, outside the door, rushed in at once. Upon seeing the floating space gate and feeling the extreme temperature, all four of them were astounded. Is this the small world containing origin power? Jian Ruyu's eyes sparkled with excitement, somewhat eager to explore. Ming Yue, shall we go in and see? Donggong Ming Yue nodded repeatedly. Yes, I want to go too. Maybe we can obtain the inheritance of the Immortal King. Liu Ningxuang couldn't help but roll her eyes at Jian Ruyu and Donggong Ming Yue, then turned to Lu Yi and asked, Junior brother, can we go in now? Yunzai also looked at Lu Yi with curiosity. After all, this was a world that might relate to an immortal king or even an immortal emperor. Any immortal would be crazed over it. Even though Liu Ningxuang and the others always had various resources provided by Lu Yi, the immortal king and immortal emperor themselves were their targets, so they were naturally curious. Lu Yi glanced at the now completely stable space lines and nodded slightly. Yes, you may enter now. Upon hearing Lu Yi's words, Jian Ruyu and Donggong Ming Yue both gleamed with excitement, and even Yun Zai and Liu Ningxuang had a hint of anticipation. Wait for me to recover to my optimal state, then we'll go in, Lu Yi said. Upon hearing this, Liu Ningxuang nodded slightly. Yes, getting prepared will make it safer for us. Lu Yi sat cross-legged and began to recover. This time, the spiritual energy Lu Yi consumed wasn't as exaggerated as when he used the fate skill before. He recovered completely after a short while. He stood up, chuckled, and said, "Let's go in." He led the way towards the space gate, with Liu Ningxuang and the others following him into it. Upon entering the space gate, Lu Yi felt the space distort momentarily, and soon he arrived in another world. It was a world completely made of flames. The sky, the ground, the air, everything seemed to be made of flames. Looking around, it was all red. Deep within the land made of flames, a red tower loomed, faintly visible. Lu Yi saw the tower, which corresponded to the tower he had seen using the fate skill through destiny, confirming it was the same tower. A figure very similar to the Red Clan loomed above the tower. Lu Yi looked towards Donggong Mingyue and the others who were some intrigued by the surroundings, and said, "Let's move towards that tower." Upon hearing this, Liu Ningxuang and the others had no objections. Could that really be a place of inheritance from the Immortal King or Immortal Emperor? Donggong Mingyue said with some longing. Hearing this, Lu Yi's face took on a peculiar expression, thinking of the figure he had seen earlier and the acquired spirit treasure, and felt that it was indeed a possibility. Perhaps this small world was the last trace left by that figure in this world. Lu Yi thought and chuckled, "Let's go see." "Let's go, let's go." Lu Yi led Liu Ningxuang and the others towards the tower. However, soon after they started flying, Lu Yi raised an eyebrow and looked towards a distant range of burning flame mountain range. Between the mountains, a roar echoed, and the next moment, a creature with red scales and an agile form surged out. The creature was engulfed in flames, with rich power of flames emanating, creating an immense presence. Chapter 746, 351, atop the tower in the small world too. But such a display of force failed to elicit even the slightest change in expression from Lu Yi. For this figure was merely a heavenly immortal, far too weak. Lu Yi reached out a hand, and in the next moment the figure stiffened in midair, roaring and howling in rage, yet unable to move an inch. Without any apparent action from Lu Yi, the figure flew towards him and stopped in front of him, intensely scrutinized by Lu Yi and the four people including Liu Ningxuang. It was a fierce beast about 2 meters tall at the shoulder, somewhat resembling a canine but with a pair of sharp horns. Flames spewed from its eyes, and its body was also ablaze. This fierce beast clearly possessed a soul, and was not merely an illusion created by fire. This piqued Lu Yi's curiosity. "I didn't expect to find an immortal beast in this small world. I wonder if it was brought here by the immortal king who created this place, or if it was born within this world. If it was the former, that would be less interesting. If a small world, created by an immortal king or immortal emperor, could actually give birth to living beings, then Lu Yi would find that quite intriguing. His own small world inside him, in essence, wasn't much different from such a small world. If such a world could give birth to an immortal beast, then the small world inside him should also be capable of producing living beings. If a world composed entirely of fire origin could produce such fire element immortal beasts, what sort of creatures would a world made of Taoist energy and chaos chi produce? Lu Yi was very curious about this. However, even if this were possible, Lu Yi probably would have to wait until he reached the immortal king realm. Shaking his head, Lu Yi made the fire element immortal beast go from still to motion, hurtling it away like a cannonball into the far distance. Lu Yi did not deal a killing blow, for if this immortal beast was important to the small world itself, it might attract the enmity of that phantom. This was not something Lu Yi wished to see. It wasn't that Lu Yi feared the phantom. In reality, the phantom didn't have much strength, and even if it activated an acquired spirit treasure, Lu Yi was confident he could escape. He simply wanted to ask the phantom some questions about the reasons for the disappearance of the immortal kings and immortal emperors, as well as everything about Jihu. It wouldn't be good if things became stiff. "Let's go." Continuing their journey, Lu Yi said, leading Liu Ningxuang and the other 3 deeper. As they ventured deeper, the temperature grew hotter, likely unbearable even for those with great power at the unification or Mahayana realm. However, to immortals, it was just a bit warm. Lu Yi and the others were unaffected. Along the way, they encountered several more immortal beasts, all of which were fire element and looked different from the first canine-like immortal beast they met. Some were gigantic, over 100 meters tall like wild bulls, with savage strength and surrounded by flames like erupting magma. Others resembled feline immortal beasts, extremely agile, hiding and ambushing within the sea of fire. Lu Yi even saw forests growing within the sea of fire. The journey was fraught with danger, likely insurmountable even for heavenly immortal. But for the current Lu Yi, such an environment posed no challenge. Soon, Lu Yi and his companions neared the tower. Only when they got close did they realize the tower wasn't very big, but it could be seen from a great distance, as though it was the center of the small world. This was the only object Lu Yi saw along the way not composed of fire. The tower was made of a red crystal, reminiscent of the crystal used by the Red Clan for their palaces, but much more heat-resistant than the ones used by the clan outside. Lu Yi examined the tower built of red crystal with some curiosity, pondering if there might be a connection between the material used by the Red Clan for their palaces and this crystal. "Is this tower the place for the trial?" Donggong Mingyue asked excitedly as she surveyed the tower. She flew around the tower and quickly found the entrance, then with some eagerness said, "Should we just go in directly?" Liu Ningxuang and the other two were equally curious. "Mingyue, why don't you try it first?" Jian Ruyu suggested. At that moment, a faint red phantom suddenly appeared in the air, eyeing Lu Yi and his companions. Seeing this pale red phantom, Donggong Mingyue, who had already planned to rush into the high tower, was taken aback and instinctively moved closer to Lu Yi. Liu Ningxuang and the other two also moved closer to Lu Yi. However, the pale red phantom paid no attention to Liu Ningxuang and the others. Since his appearance, he had been watching Lu Yi. Lu Yi was also sizing up the pale red phantom. The phantom looked exactly like the young man Lu Yi had seen through his fate skill, handsome and very similar to the Red Clan. The two of them locked eyes, and then the pale red phantom showed a smile. "Young friend, it must be you who peered into this place through destiny before, right?" Lu Yi smiled slightly and said with a bow, "Please forgive me, predecessor. I was concerned about potential dangers here before." "Being cautious and vigilant when traveling outside is good," the pale red phantom shook his head. "I did not mean to blame you, young friend." Lu Yi chuckled. "That's good to hear. I have many questions I wish to ask you." The pale red phantom laughed heartily. "I also have many questions for you, young friend. Since this is the case, shall we find a place to sit and talk at length?" "Of course, no problem," Lu Yi nodded and replied. The pale red phantom smiled. "Follow me." He flew towards the top of the high tower. Seeing this, Lu Yi followed, while Liu Ningxuang and the others were a bit stunned but still followed suit. They had thought about entering the tower to see if there were tests or the like, to see if they could inherit the immortal king's legacy. Unexpectedly, someone had already come to invite them. No, it should be to invite Lu Yi. With a look of puzzlement on their faces, they wondered if he was the successor appointed by an immortal king or immortal emperor. The women glanced at Lu Yi and saw his calm expression, feeling somewhat proud inside. He truly was their man. The group flew to the top of the tower, and the next moment an opening suddenly appeared in the originally smooth wall, with the pale red phantom saying with a light laugh, "Come in." He entered the opening first, and Lu Yi followed, with Liu Ningxuang and the others trailing behind him. Inside was a vast red space with intense heat. Lu Yi saw the golden red ring radiating immense pressure, as if it suppressed everything. Liu Ningxuang and the others also saw the ring immediately, their pupils shrinking as they felt a tingling in their chests from the pressure. The four women involuntarily moved closer to Lu Yi, looking vigilant. Seeing this, the pale red phantom said with a smile, "Young friends, there's no need to worry, I mean you no harm." Lu Yi chuckled and nodded, "I believe you, predecessor." Because he had mastered the destiny law, even without using his fate skill, Lu Yi could somewhat perceive good and bad in reality. He hadn't felt anything harmful happening to him so far, and considering the previous affirmation through his fate skill, Lu Yi could confirm the phantom really had no ill intentions toward him. Of course, even if there were ill intentions, Lu Yi wouldn't be afraid. The pale red phantom waved his hand, and a table made of red crystals appeared in the red space. "Let's sit down to talk." The pale red phantom sat down first and said with a light chuckle, "In fact, I am just a residual shadow without a physical body. Sitting doesn't really feel like anything. But thinking of you, young friends, I think it's better to do the same as you." Upon hearing this, Lu Yi had a slightly odd look on his face, not expecting the pale red phantom to be so understanding. "Thank you, predecessor. Then I won't stand on ceremony," he said. He sat down first, and Liu Ningxuang and the others also took their seats on either side of Lu Yi. The pale red phantom gazed at Lu Yi, smiling. "Young friend, we both have questions, so why don't you ask your questions first?" Lu Yi was taken aback, then smiled. "Then I thank you, predecessor." He took a deep breath and looked at the pale red phantom, asking, "You said you are a residual shadow, so what strength does your original body possess?" Chapter 747, 352. The Missing Immortal Kings and Immortal Emperors. Chapter 747-352. The Missing Immortal Kings and Immortal Emperors. In the vast deep red space, the atmosphere was heavy. The pale red specter laughed lightly upon hearing Lu Yi's words. "The strength of my actual body. When this residual shadow was left behind, I had already reached the Immortal King realm." Just as expected. Although Lu Yi had previously guessed that the residual shadow's actual body might have been at the level of an immortal king or immortal emperor, hearing the confirmation still excited him somewhat. It wasn't just Lu Yi who was excited. Liu Ningxuang and the others beside him were equally shaken. After all, since the immortal kings and emperors mysteriously vanished, there had been no news of them, and to think they would encounter a residual shadow left by an immortal king here. "Young friend, you seem quite surprised by the strength of my actual body." The pale red specter saw the odd expressions on Lu Yi and Liu Ningxuang's faces, raised an eyebrow slightly, and asked with some confusion. "According to the destiny law you have displayed, you should come from the lineage of an immortal king, or perhaps even an immortal emperor, shouldn't you?" The pale red specter couldn't understand how Lu Yi, with his demonstrated strength and talent, ensuring his future achievement of the immortal king status, could be surprised by a mere residual shadow of an immortal king. Lu Yi smiled slightly and said, "Not to make you laugh, senior, but since the collective disappearance of the immortal kings and emperors many years ago, there have been no immortal kings or emperors in the universe." His words caused the pale red specter's form to waver slightly. After a long silence, he slowly said, "Is that so? Have no new immortal kings or emperors emerged? Did the previous immortal kings and emperors all vanish?" Seeing the pale red specter's strange expression, Lu Yi asked, "Senior, it seems you know something." Upon hearing Lu Yi's words, the pale red specter seemed to snap back to reality. He glanced at Lu Yi, his eyes filled with a complex expression, and said, "Before I answer that question, I want to ask you one." "Please ask, senior." "Does Jihu still exist?" The voice of the pale red specter carried a complexity that Lu Yi couldn't comprehend. Upon hearing the immortal king specter inquire about Jihu, Lu Yi perked up and nodded. "It does." The pale red specter fell silent again, and after a moment he let out a breath and murmured, "Is that so? It still exists." "Senior, in your time, was there also Jihu?" Lu Yi asked a question he was very concerned about. "Ha ha ha," the pale red specter laughed. "Of course it existed. It is the cosmic negative reality shadow in existence since the birth of this world. How could it not exist?" "Cosmic negative reality shadow," Lu Yi, after hearing the explanation from the pale red specter, repeated softly, taken aback. Lu Yi had originally thought Jihu was another universe attempting to invade this one, but it seems Jihu is inherently related to this universe. Where there is light, there is shadow, and when shadows spread, they can swallow the light. Jihu is such a case. Born from the shadows of the real universe, for some unknown reason, it became stronger and eventually began its invasion into the real universe. In our time, Jihu had already grown very powerful, even to the point that some regions fell, and shadows entirely consumed reality. Lu Yi was taken aback at the pale red specter's words, his eyes widening in astonishment. Jihu had already entered the real universe back then. Not only was Lu Yi astonished, but Liu Ningxuang and the others beside him had the same shocked expressions. It was known that Jihu Qi was filled with strong corrosive and spreading abilities, even affecting immortals who lingered too long in the Jihu battlefield, let alone ordinary people. If Jihu had truly entered the real universe, it would have been an unimaginably horrific disaster. Lu Yi simply couldn't imagine how, despite having so many immortal kings and emperors back then, Jihu could still have made its way into the real world. To think that even now, the strongest in the universe were only at the immortal venerable level, and Jihu still couldn't enter the real world. The pale red specter, noticing the surprise on Lu Yi and the others, raised an eyebrow, his expression somewhat strange. "What? Does Jihu no longer exist outside?" Lu Yi shook his head. "No, Although there are passages between Jiyu and the universe, they have been isolated into small spaces by the powerful beings at the immortal venerable level. Many strong figures guard these small spaces, preventing Jiyu demons from entering the universe. Immortal venerable. Mere immortal venerables are capable of fending off Jiyu. The pale red spectre seemed to have heard some ridiculous fable, his eyes filled with astonishment. Even though his actual body was an immortal king, and as a spectre left by an immortal king, he was widely knowledgeable, he still could not conceal his shock. Mere immortal venerables. Lu Yi, hearing the disdain in the voice of the pale red spectre, couldn't help but be dumbfounded. He wondered what the reaction of the Yu family's old ancestors would be if they heard this. Nonetheless, he also detected something amiss in the words of the pale red spectre. Jiyu must be unimaginably powerful, far beyond what could be withstood by those at the immortal venerable level. But the reality is, there are currently no beings stronger than immortal venerables in the Jiyu battlefield, and yet they have held their ground. Senior, we do indeed only have strong beings at the immortal venerable level, and Jiyu has not entered the universe, Lu Yi calmly stated the situation. The pale red spectre first looked incredulous, and then as if he had thought of something, his face showed a mix of relief and sorrow. I see. I think I may know the reason. Chapter 748, 352. The Missing Immortal Kings and Immortal Emperors 2. Chapter 748-352. The Missing Immortal Kings and Immortal Emperors /2. Hearing this, the eyes of Lu Yi and the 4 Liu Ningxuang people lit up as they all turned to look at the pale red silhouette. You know the reason. What exactly is the reason? The pale red silhouette looked at Lu Yi and chuckled lightly. Didn't the young friend just ask me how those immortal kings and immortal emperors went missing? Upon hearing this, Lu Yi was startled. Could it be that these two matters are related? Of course they are related, the pale red silhouette said indifferently as if reminiscing. Back then, my original body left behind a residual shadow of its power, while it itself joined a war, the great battle between the real universe and Jiyu. Initially, when Jiyu just began to erode the real universe, due to the presence of 9 immortal emperors and numerous immortal kings, the real universe actually had a slight advantage. However, because the Jiyu Qi was too infectious, the situation got worse and worse. Eventually, as Jiyu eroded a broader expanse of the universe, there was no choice but for the 9 immortal emperors and a group of immortal kings to decide to enter Jiyu and combat the Jiyu demons there. This was because, when the Jiyu demons entered the real universe, they merely projected their powers with the sole purpose of spreading the Jiyu Qi. To completely annihilate the Jiyu demons, one could only enter Jiyu and kill every last one of their true forms. Lu Yi and the 4 Liu Ningxuang listened calmly to the recollections of the pale red silhouette. When it paused, Lu Yi couldn't help but ask, what happened afterward? Afterward, my real body didn't know whether this journey would bring fortune or doom, so it left me and the golden flame ring here, and it created a small cosmic area, leaving behind inheritance. Just in case my real body perished, his legacy would not be severed, said the pale red silhouette calmly. Lu Yi and the 4 Liu Ningxuang fell somewhat silent. They exchanged looks, eyes flickering, faces showing complex expressions. So those immortal kings and immortal emperors disappeared because they all entered Jiyu, and not one returned. Yun Zai's ethereal voice sounded. The statement sent shivers down the spines of Lu Yi and the others. Those were all the immortal kings and immortal emperors of the entire universe, the pinnacle of strength across the cosmos. They entered Jiyu, and not a single one returned. Jiyu must be terrifying beyond measure. The pale red silhouette nodded slightly. I'm afraid that's the case. They entered Jiyu intending to destroy it completely, but now it seems they failed. Seeing the grim expressions on the faces of Lu Yi and the others, the pale red silhouette chuckled. Don't worry too much, they probably haven't fully failed. This caught Lu Yi and the others off guard. Then their eyes lit up, and Jian Ruyu said, Senior, are you suggesting that the reason why Jiyu doesn't seem strong now is also because of the battle back then? Exactly. Jiyu and the real universe are one dark and one light, originating from the same source. The difference in strength shouldn't be unimaginably vast. Back then, all the immortal kings and immortal emperors of the universe took part in that battle. Even if Jiyu managed to win, it was probably a Pyrrhic victory. A massive upheaval must have occurred in Jiyu. Otherwise, with its strength at the time, A universe that only had immortal venerates would have been unable to resist Jiu's invasion. It would have been completely devoured within years. The pale red silhouette shared its speculation. Lu Yi and the others arrived at the same conjecture, and it allowed them to breathe slightly easier. But they hadn't completely relaxed. Not knowing the true strength of Jiu, they probably wouldn't have been too concerned. But now that they knew how formidable Jiu was, that even so many immortal kings and immortal emperors were deployed and still failed to annihilate Jiu, without a single one returning. Even if Jiu was also seriously injured at the moment, what if it recovered? Would the current universe be able to withstand it? They probably couldn't resist at all. A chill ran through Luya's heart. Fearlessness stems from ignorance. Knowing the strength of Jiu, they really couldn't be at ease. At that moment, Lu Yi and the others felt as if a shadow had been cast over their hearts. Seeing Lu Yi and the others in silence, the pale red silhouette didn't rush them, also falling into silence. The pale red silhouette had been waiting here for who knows how many years, not expecting to receive such news in the end. Within the vast crimson space, the atmosphere was somewhat silent. A moment later, Lu Yi recovered and lightly chuckled. "Senior, thank you for sharing all of this with us. Otherwise, we might never have realized how terrifying Jiu truly is." Although Lu Yi had previously tried to overestimate Jiu, he never imagined he had still underestimated it so drastically. That Jiu had kept 9 immortal emperors and numerous immortal kings there, even if Lu Yi advanced to an immortal king, he probably wouldn't be able to settle it. If Lu Yi were to break through to the immortal emperor with his foundations, he would certainly be much stronger than the average immortal emperor. At that time, I wonder if he could level Jiu. Perhaps it would be difficult for him alone to achieve such a goal. The more powerhouses, the better after all. Lu Yi felt somewhat sentimental inside. It would be best if Jiu recovered later rather than sooner. The residual shadow shook its head and then spoke. "Now that I have answered the young friend's questions, it is time for the young friend to answer mine." Lu Yi answered with a smile. "Of course, Senior may ask." The residual shadow fell silent for a moment, seemingly organizing its thoughts, and then with a smile said, "Actually, most of what I wanted to ask has been answered in our earlier conversation, but I still have some doubts. You must have received the inheritance of the Fate Immortal King, haven't you? Haven't you ever met the Fate Immortal King?" Fate Immortal King. Hearing this name, Lu Yi's pupils constricted, and he immediately thought of the time when he explored the Abyss ruins in the Crystal Spirit battlefield, the strong being who had escaped the ruins. At that time, he had mentioned the words Fate Immortal King. This was what Yu Hangguang had told him back then. If it wasn't for the residual shadows mentioned now, he would have long since forgotten it. Now hearing these 4 words again, Lu Yi began to recall the past. The residual shadow assumed he had received the inheritance of the Fate Immortal King because he practiced the secret technique of destiny. Yet the secret technique of destiny was initially brought out of the Abyss ruins by the Yu family ancestor, and he had merely obtained this secret technique from the Yu family. Through this technique, Lu Yi had even mastered the perfect level destiny law. It seemed then that the Abyss ruins could very well be the inheritance land left by the Fate Immortal King. However, the Abyss ruins were a well-known cosmic forbidden zone. If it was really the inheritance land left by the Fate Immortal King, it would be far too dangerous. Just make a comparison with this place. This small world is also the inheritance land left by an immortal king, but apart from some immortal beasts which are a bit troublesome, this place is only a bit hot and not at all too dangerous. Why is there such a vast difference? Additionally, what concerned Lu Yi the most was, if the Abyss ruins truly were the inheritance land left by the Fate Immortal King, then why did that Jiu cultivator lead so many people into the Abyss ruins previously? Lu Yi could not understand. He hesitated for a moment and then said, "Senior, the secret technique of destiny I practice was obtained from a cosmic forbidden zone. As for who it originated from, I do not know." Obtained the secret technique of destiny from a cosmic forbidden zone. The residual shadow clearly didn't expect Lu Yi to say such a thing, pausing in surprise, then with a slightly peculiar expression looked at Lu Yi. "Are you saying you merely relied on a secret technique to comprehend a perfect level law by yourself, and even reached a point where you can communicate with the Tao and see through destiny?" Lu Yi nodded somewhat sheepishly. "Indeed, no one taught me this secret technique of destiny." Frankly, one of Lu Yi's masters got completely tricked. She is now weaker than him despite practicing the same secret technique, and has to ask him for advice on how to practice it. Lu Yi is now confused about who actually is the master. He even felt that maybe he should have someone call him master instead. The residual shadow. It looked at the somewhat shy Lu Yi with a numb expression, thinking, what the hell? To merely rely on one secret technique to comprehend such a profound law, what kind of monster is this? Even though his true form was an immortal king, the residual shadow was shocked. Did any of those 9 possess such talent? This is without a doubt the bearing of an immortal emperor. Chapter 749, 353, Immortal King Scripture. Seeing the light red apparition fall silent, Lu Yi felt somewhat puzzled. What's the matter, senior? The light red apparition came back to their senses, looked at Lu Yi with a very complicated expression, and said, young friend, your talent is unparalleled, even by the standards of those years, and unmatched across the entire universe. Lu Yi nodded slightly, smiling lightly. Thank you for the praise, senior. He certainly knew his own talent was strong. After all, using so many Tao treasures and Chaos treasures was not for nothing. The light red apparition fell silent for a moment, then asked, you said you obtained your secret technique of destiny from a cosmic forbidden zone. What is the name of that forbidden zone? It's called the Abyss Ruins, a massive rift, approximately several hundred light years in size. Even light cannot escape that rift, and most cultivators who enter it die. Lu Yi explained briefly about the Abyss Ruins. Abyss Ruins. The light red apparition slightly furrowed their brows, muttering, we didn't have such a cosmic forbidden zone back then. It seems to have appeared later. I can't provide any useful information. Lu Yi felt somewhat disappointed in his heart, as he had thought that, being an immortal king, the light red apparition might have known something about the Abyss Ruins. However, the Fate Immortal King held his secret technique in extremely high regard and would not place it carelessly. Since you could find the Fate Immortal King's secret technique in that forbidden zone, perhaps it was once the Fate Immortal King's Tao field, only to have weakened due to some incident, the light red apparition speculated. At these words, Lu Yi's eyes lit up, and he looked towards the light red apparition. Senior, do you know a lot about the Fate Immortal King? The light red apparition chuckled lightly. That's not the case, but back then there were only so many immortal king-level powerhouses in the entire universe, and I had met some of them, albeit having a nodding acquaintance. However, because the Fate Immortal King mastered the origin of destiny, his combat power was extremely formidable, arguably the strongest below the Immortal Emperor. He was very prominent in those days, so naturally, I know a bit more about him. Lu Yi nodded slightly in realization. I see. The power of destiny was extremely formidable, as he could already see through destiny now, let alone mastering the origin of destiny. It was likely that the Fate Immortal King could truly see through the future and foresee opponents' destinies in battle, making him an incredibly formidable being. At this thought, Lu Yi suddenly paused, as a bold idea occurred to him. If the Fate Immortal King had mastered the origin of destiny, then as the Immortal King in charge of destiny, wouldn't he have foreseen his own destiny before going to Jade? Seeing the destiny of his own death, would the Fate Immortal King still willingly go to Jade? At this thought, Lu Yi felt a shudder. Even he, who had not yet mastered the origin, could predict certain dangers. He didn't believe that the Fate Immortal King couldn't foresee those dangers. And even if the world of Jiu was completely different from theirs, making destiny impossible to directly discern, there must have been some traces to follow. Wouldn't the Fate Immortal King have left some precaution in place, just in case? Even this Fire Immortal King had left behind a legacy, so what about the Fate Immortal King? He must have also left behind precautions. If the Abyss Ruins were indeed once the Tao field of the Fate Immortal King, and now it had turned into a cosmic forbidden zone, something must have happened there. As Lu Yi was lost in thought, the light red apparition beside him was also pondering. Perhaps the Fate Immortal King had left precautions there on the spot, and an incident had occurred. Lu Yi nodded slightly. Senior is right. Perhaps when I become stronger, I should go and see for myself. The light red apparition nodded and chuckled. Hee. If it were anyone else, even becoming an immortal king, I wouldn't recommend they visit the forbidden zone left by the Fate Immortal King, but you are different. Since you have mastered the destiny law, if you become an immortal king and master the origin of destiny, that forbidden zone will probably be like your backyard to you. Lu Yi laughed. You flatter me, senior. If that ruin wasn't left by the fate immortal king and has nothing to do with the origin of destiny, then it might still be troublesome when the time comes. Ha ha ha. The light-red apparition laughed for a few moments, then calmed down, their gaze sweeping across the vast light-red space, their expression somewhat melancholic. It's a pity. Those from the past are never coming back. Lu Yi and Liu Ningxuang's group also fell silent for a moment. Yunzai softly consoled, "Senior, please take heart." Soon the light-red apparition recovered, their gaze sweeping over Lu Yi in thought, sighing lightly. "It's a pity, a pity. None of you five are cultivators of the fire Tao. Otherwise, I could have passed on the cultivation technique left by my true body to you." Hearing this, Liu Ningxuang and the others' eyes lit up, then they were a bit disappointed. Indeed, Jian Ruyu was a sword immortal body. Donggong Mingyue cultivated the thunder skill, Yunzai cultivated the natural Tao, and Liu Ningxuang practiced the ice skill. No matter who it was, they didn't understand the fire Tao well, and even if they obtained the immortal king technique, they wouldn't be able to cultivate it. The higher the level of cultivation technique, the higher the comprehension of the Tao required. If one had no understanding of the fire Tao, they simply wouldn't be able to comprehend the immortal king technique. However, Lu Yi didn't mind, smiling lightly. "Senior, I think I can cultivate it." The light-red apparition was stunned, looked at Lu Yi, and was somewhat puzzled. "Young friend, you cultivate the path of destiny. Even if I passed on my true body's cultivation technique to you, you probably wouldn't be able to cultivate it, as you must reach the small success realm of the flame law to be able to comprehend my true body's left-behind cultivation technique." Chapter 750, 353, Immortal King Scripture 2. Chapter 750-353, Immortal King Scripture /2. If it's small success, that means one has exceeded 30% mastery of the flame law. Such a cultivator, when placed anywhere in the Tianluo star domain, would not be considered weak. In fact, most who reach this level of comprehension are at least profound immortals. This means those who wish to cultivate the Immortal King technique left by the Fire Immortal King must be at least of profound immortal level. The pale red residual shadow could easily see through the strength of Liu Ningxuang and her three companions, but it was unable to see through Lu Yi. About this, the pale red residual shadow was not surprised. After all, Lu Yi had mastered the destiny law to a deeply profound extent, and it was merely a residual shadow of power. If it were the original body, there might be a chance to perceive this young friend's depth. However, the pale red residual shadow did not mind. Since this young friend cultivated the path of destiny, he was thus incompatible with the fire Tao. Regarding this, the pale red residual shadow felt quite regretful, for his ability to master the destiny law to such a terrifying extent with just a single secret technique of destiny indicated his comprehension was truly born for the Tao. If he had followed the fire Tao, perhaps another immortal king from the lineage of fire would have emerged. As the pale red residual shadow secretly lamented, Lu Yi chuckled softly, and strands of rich and intense power of flames emanated from his body, surrounded by crimson flames flowing like a layer of moving gauze, covering the surface of Lu Yi's body. The violent flames at that moment were as obedient to Lu Yi as a pet. The pale red residual shadow looked at the flames, completely dumbfounded. It stared wide-eyed in astonishment. Flame law, perfect level of flame law. The pale red residual shadow could not believe it. After mastering such a powerful destiny law, this young friend had actually mastered the flame law as well. And it was not just any mastery but the perfect level of flame law, and even with the perception of the pale red residual shadow, there were already traces of Taoyuan within. What this meant, the pale red residual shadow, as the original being an immortal king, was naturally clear. The prelude to mastering the flame origin by entering the fire Tao. He was only a golden immortal, and yet he had already stepped over the threshold of mastering origin power. And it was not just one law but two, the laws of flame and destiny. Are all cultivators of later generations this powerful? The pale red residual shadow could hardly stay calm and could not help but ask. At the side, Donggong Mingyue somewhat proudly said, "Senior, you are overthinking it. It's only my senior brother who is this strong. He is truly one of a kind." The three companions of Liu Ningxuang also nodded in agreement. In their view, there had never been anyone who surpassed Lu Yi in talent. There hadn't been in the past, and similarly, it wouldn't be possible in the future either. Hearing this, the pale red residual shadow actually felt relieved. It nodded and looked at Lu Yi with great astonishment. So it is, such a talent is indeed unique. At the golden immortal realm, to have mastered 2 perfect laws and even to have Tao Yun, such a talent, even in the distant past, I have never heard of it. Then it revealed a joyous smile. Young friend, your mastery of the flame law is so powerful that you are worthy to inherit my legacy. Would you be willing to accept this inheritance? Lu Yi nodded seriously. As long as the senior does not disdain my modest talents, I am naturally willing. Pale red residual shadow. Modest talents. For a moment, it didn't know how to respond. Subsequently, the pale red phantom stopped dwelling on these matters. With a wave of his hand, a crimson jade scroll abruptly appeared and floated towards Lu Yi. This is the cultivation technique left by my physical self, named Sunburning Starfall Technique. My physical self spent countless years, after breaking through to the immortal king realm, to integrate and thoroughly comprehend the fire origin, eventually creating this immortal king scripture. It can help one comprehend the fire origin, and when cultivated to the utmost limit, its power is extraordinarily formidable. The sunburning star fire cultivated can evaporate a whole star system with a mere gesture. The pale red phantom spoke eloquently. Even though he was just a phantom, he couldn't help feeling a bit proud when talking about this cultivation technique. After all, the pale red phantom inherited all the memories of his physical self, and naturally understood how powerful this immortal king technique was, and how much effort his physical self had put into creating this technique. At this moment, this technique had found its successor. Looking at Lu Yi, the pale red phantom earnestly said, "My physical self is probably no longer in existence, so I will not ask you to become my disciple. Young friend, I hope you can carry forward this technique and cultivate it to its utmost." Lu Yi took the jade scroll, his expression equally serious, and nodded, "Senior, rest assured, I will diligently cultivate this technique." This technique was also of significant meaning to Lu Yi. After all, even the highest techniques in the Yu family's scripture pavilion could only be cultivated up to the immortal venerate realm, without touching on how to comprehend the origin or how to step into the immortal king realm. Lu Yi could understand this, as currently in the universe, the most powerful were only immortal venerates. How long had it been since immortal kings and immortal emperors were around? The interruption of inheritance was quite severe. Techniques of the immortal king and immortal emperor were probably extremely rare and precious throughout the universe. Right now, Lu Yi didn't have any reference techniques of immortal kings or emperors to deduce new Tao Yin Yang immortal scriptures. The difficulty was quite high. Although with Lu Yi's comprehension and talent, deducing them was just a matter of time. Time is money, my friend. With this sunburning starfall technique, Lu Yi only needed to cultivate and master its essence, which would definitely greatly aid his understanding of the immortal king realm and the origin power. This was beneficial both for Lu Yi's deduction of the Tao Yin Yang immortal scriptures' immortal king-level techniques, and for mastering the origin. He had already mastered laws to the perfection realm, but even now, he had not yet grasped the origin solely because he lacked references and was probing only through his comprehension and talent. Even so, Lu Yi already had some clues and had taken a half step forward. And this had only taken Lu Yi about 1,000 years, which shows just how astounding Lu Yi's talent really was. Ha ha ha, with the young friend's promise I am at ease. I believe in your talent, young friend, and this sunburning starfall technique will surely shine brilliantly. The pale red phantom laughed heartily. At that moment, something occurred to Lu Yi. He glanced at the jade scroll in his hand and said, "Senior, I have one more matter I wish to discuss with you." "What matter?" the pale red phantom asked, looking at Lu Yi. Then Lu Yi talked about how the Red Star had birthed the Red Clan a long time ago, and that the Red Clan possessed a very strong fire cultivator talent to the pale red phantom. "The Red Clan resembles the senior very much. I was wondering, could they be your clansmen?" Lu Yi said, observing the expressions on the pale red phantom's face. The face of the pale red phantom indeed showed continuous changes. After Lu Yi finished speaking, he finally said with a complex expression, "This is the land I chose for inheritance, far from my clan's land. My clansmen couldn't possibly appear here. If it's as the young friend mentioned, then perhaps due to the scattering of origin power in my own aura, the Red Clan was reborn. Ah. I thought that after so many years without my protection, my clan would have vanished from the annals of history. Unexpectedly, a new branch has rebirthed." Lu Yi had initially thought that the Red Clan were the descendants left by the pale red phantom, just that some calamity had caused them to lose their previous inheritance. He hadn't expected that the Red Clan was born in this manner. He couldn't help but marvel inwardly at the prowess of an immortal king's methods. Merely the leakage of his aura had created a race similar to the previous one on a planet. Since there's a connection, after the young friend leaves here, you can talk to them. Let them come here to undergo trials and accept the inheritance. If they are qualified, I will also pass down the technique, the pale red phantom said. Upon hearing this, Lu Yi's eyes brightened. If that's the case, I will thank the senior on their behalf. After all, the Red Clan currently followed him. If they could receive the inheritance from this immortal King Phantom, it would be beneficial for him as well. The pale red phantom shook his head, then looked at Lu Yi and said, "Young friend, I have a request." Lu Yi was taken aback and asked, "What is it?" Chapter 751-354, Huge Harvest. Chapter 751-354, Huge Harvest. As I said before I entered GU, to ensure that the inheritance would not be interrupted, I not only left my legacy within the clan, but also secretly established this inheritance land in a star region far from our clan territory. This was to prevent other forces from coveting our decline after my departure and causing the interruption of our legacy. Now, hearing your words, it seems that no new immortal kings or immortal emperors have emerged in the universe. It appears my clan hasn't seen the rise of any new immortal kings either. I would like to know how they are faring now. If you have the time, could you please help me check on them? The pale red phantom sincerely asked. Upon hearing this, Lu Yi slightly raised his eyebrows, feeling somewhat hesitant. After all, his original plan was to retreat and meditate on the sunburning starfall technique after leaving the Red Star, hoping to soon comprehend the origin power. Learning about Jihu from the immortal King Phantom made Lu Yi feel an even greater sense of urgency. He was certain that those immortal kings and emperors who had ventured into Jihu had inflicted substantial losses there. However, none of them had returned, likely indicating they had lost. As the victors, even if Jihu had suffered heavily, they would eventually recover. With no new immortal kings or emperors emerging in the universe, if Jihu regained their past strength, the current universe would stand no chance. Lu Yi's plan was to grow stronger swiftly, to become an immortal king or even an emperor. Then, even if Jihu truly recovered with his foundation, even facing an immortal emperor, even if the opponent was a Jihu demon, Lu Yi would hold his own. Nevertheless, this immortal King Phantom had been kind to him, providing him with much information and unconditionally imparting his Immortal King technique. It should be noted that this was an Immortal King technique, which even the long-standing Yu family didn't possess, illustrating its immense value. Even in the days when immortal kings and emperors were common, the Immortal King technique was still a tremendously valuable treasure. This favor was significant. Lu Yi was not one to be ungrateful. To receive such a technique and then turn his back on it would be rather disgraceful. After hesitating for a while, Lu Yi smiled and said, "Elder, where exactly is your clan located? If there are no clues, it would be difficult to search. After all, so many years have passed, and with the changes in the universe, finding people from the past might be very challenging." Eventually, Lu Yi decided to inquire with the pale red phantom. If he could locate them, he decided he would help. Hearing Lu Yi's words, the pale red phantom contemplated for a moment and then nodded slightly. "You make a valid point, young friend. If too much time has passed, finding the original clan lands indeed might not be easy." As he spoke, he waved his hand and a jade plate appeared in the air, floating in front of Lu Yi. "This is the star map from back then, marked with the location of our clan lands. You can compare it with the current star maps. If you can find it, that would be great. If not, there's no need to force it." Lu Yi received the jade plate and nodded. "I will try my best to locate it. If there is any news, I will inform you immediately, Elder." As he spoke, Lu Yi silently mused to himself. "I need to find the lands of the Red Immortal King and investigate the whereabouts of his people." Task: find the lands of the Red Immortal King and investigate his people's whereabouts. Reward: innate treasure Immortal Flame Emperor Bell, increase in fire origin understanding, origin immortal skill, 9 heavens tribulation fire. Accept the task, yes, no. Seeing the task rewards, Lu Yi was delighted. During these times, Lu Yi had undertaken numerous tasks, but the highest involved only immortal monarch level. There was one immortal venerable level task when Lu Yi thought of helping the Yu family ancestor to break through, launching a task himself. The reward for that task was an innate spirit treasure called the Fan of the Fantasy World, a treasure involving the dimensions of dreams and reality and appearing exceedingly powerful. Lu Yu was already satisfied since such innate spirit treasures were not even owned by the entire Yu family. He hadn't expected to now be rewarded with an even more powerful treasure, an increase in origin understanding, and even an immortal skill using origin power. Just thinking about it indicated its tremendous strength, far surpassing even golden immortal skills. Looking at it this way, undertaking this task was worthwhile. Lu Yu was already powerful enough with his conventional methods, and he had quite a few trump cards, but he truly did not own a single innate treasure like this. Plus, with him already beginning to comprehend origin power, the rewards for increased origin understanding and the origin immortal skill were also very appealing. Mere strong cultivation was insufficient, his combat ability needed to be enhanced as well. Only then, if he were the only strong one when the time came, could he face Jiu's immortal kings and emperors confidently. Hearing Lu Yi agree, the pale red phantom chuckled. "Thank you, young friend. If you can do me this favor, I will prepare some more things for you later." Hearing this, Lu Yi felt secretly thrilled. It seemed there would be more rewards from this immortal king elder later on. This was indeed good news. Afterward, Lu Yi and the pale red phantom continued to chat for a while about cultivation. Lu Yi asked about how to comprehend the origin, and although the pale red phantom was merely a projection and not very powerful, his memories were complete, as were his experiences. He had unique insights into how to comprehend origin, which made Lu Yi feel as if he had sudden revelations.